Good morning, good morning, good morning. Or afternoon, as the case may be. If you're on the East Coast. As it looks like Magoo in the chat. He says, afternoon, gents. Yep, it is afternoon for some of you. It is morning for some of you. We're in the liminal space. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the ASTROLABE, brought to you by King Pilled. It's a good day to have a good day. Got a whole bunch of stuff for you guys here today. Some of it's funny, some of it's cool, some of it is cringy, some of it is interesting, educational. Got a whole bunch of stuff to go through today, but before we get into anything else, we have to start Friday off with the best possible way to start a Friday. And I'm going to hope it's this tab. Yes, this is the best possible way to start your Friday.
Happy Friday afternoon. Now we've done it. We've got to the end of the week. We have locked up our warehouse. We have parked up our vans. We have logged off our computers. And I've quickly popped into my favourite local pub for a cheeky pint of beer. And look, a little bit of early dinner because the wife, I love her dearly, but her cooking ain't that great. And we've got a stunning beef and ale pie, a bit of mashed potatoes, baked beans in a pot, which I think is wrong, but it's happened anyway. And of course, a bit of gravy. And you know me, I never look when I pour, because I am the absolute governor. Now listen, guys, hope you had a great week. Keep on smashing life. Keep giving it 110%. And don't go home until you're proud. And listen, cheers to you all. You deserve it. A bosh.
A bosh. This is my current favorite internet character. I don't know anything about him whatsoever. I follow him and I just watch his videos like this when they come by, and I don't know anything else about his life or his nothing about him whatsoever. I think he has kids, and he's some business guy who just periodically posts videos about like this, just to pump you up. He's very normie, at least to the extent that I've seen him. He's very normie, but in a I don't know, a charming way. There's a charming norminess. No, I don't want to hear you again, man. Sorry. Okay. All right. Do me a favor. Hit the like button. We got 29 watching right now and 7 likes. Hit that like button. Get the likes up. And we'll launch into some stories here. So where did this one go that I was just looking at? It was just right here. Okay. So one of my favorite podcasts to follow is the now most popular podcast in the world, Tucker Carlson's podcast. And he has a guy on, so the Cults of Silicon Valley, Woke AI, and Tech Billionaires, something or other is the name of the title for this episode. Talking to a guy named Amjad Masad. He's a technologist, CEO, founder from Jordan. He's Palestinian from Jordan. And talking about the AI and all sorts of different stuff. But there's one particular clip here that stood out to me as I was listening this morning.
Your podcast with Joe Rogan, whatever, and you're like, oh, we should nuke the data centers. Yeah. And
I'm excitable.
Yeah,
on the basis of very little information.
Well, actually, tell me, what is your theory about the threat of AI?
I want to be the kind of man who admits up front his limitations and his ignorance. And on this topic, I'm legitimately ignorant, but I have read a lot about it, and I've read most of the alarmist stuff about it. And the idea is, as you well know, that the machines become so powerful that they achieve a kind of autonomy. And they...
One of the things I love about Tucker, I'm going to pause this periodically here because this is literally a screen capture of YouTube posted on Twitter being streamed on YouTube. So I'm going to try to be careful here, but I really like, one of the things I like about Tucker is how very open and authentic he is. He's like, all right, this is my bias. This is what I think. This is I'm going to give you like 100% of exactly what I think, fully emotionally charged and everything. And I'm also fully willing to acknowledge I have no idea what I'm talking about. You, please, educate me. And he'll do this he has this natural humility where he'll do this with people, even if he maybe ostensibly has like some major disagreements or is completely different culturally. Yet then he also has a hard line where when someone's across that line for him, you could tell he has a very good sense of friend and enemy. So he's somehow he seems like he's probably very high in openness.
Though designed to serve you, wind up ruling you.
But he's also, he knows when to draw a line.
Yeah. And, I'm I'm really interested in Ted Kaczynski's writings, his 2 books that he wrote. Obviously, I should just say ritually. I'm totally opposed to letter bombs or violence of any kind. But Ted Kaczynski had a lot of provocative and thoughtful things to say.
Ritually. He does these little, if you don't listen to Tucker a lot, you really have to. I know he's like the most popular person in the world, but then it's also kind of like within our circles, it seems like Tucker is, if you came from a libertarian background, you're kind of like, oh, well, Tucker, he's a statist. Or if you're, from various other persuasions, you might think that, oh, he's a CIA plant, or he's a lib, or he's a, some silliness. He is he's our guy through and through, 100% our guy. And, exactly the guy you'd want to go get a drink with. You'd want to go talk, go out and go hunting and smoke a cigar and sit around a fire and talk about reality. Great family man. Like he's completely our guy. So I think it's funny that he's really super popular, but then it also seems like within our little circles here, it's like fashionable to think that Tucker is an op or something. And that just tells me that you're someone who has you have like the really simple thin slicing programs that you run that say, oh, he looks like this, he has these characteristics, therefore okay, just write it off. But if you sit and listen to him, like if you spend hours listening to him like I have, it's very obvious that he is exactly what you see is what you get. He is 100% open and sincere, and if anything, he's almost a little, rather than being like some malevolent force, if anything, he's almost a little naive, kind of. He's kind of almost a little too open, is where he would err. I think he would make an absolutely terrible intelligence agent. Yeah, we'll keep it going.
About technology. It's almost like having live-in help, which, people make a lot of money. They all want to have live-in help. But the truth about live-in help is, they're there to serve you, but you wind up serving them. It inverts. And AI is a kind of species of that. That's the fear. And I don't want to be a slave to a machine any more than I already am. So it's kind of that simple. And then there's all this other stuff. You know a lot more about this than I do, and you're in that world. But yeah, that's my concern.
It's actually a quite valid concern. I would like decouple the existential threat concern from the concern. And we've been talking about this of like us being slaves to the machines. And I think Ted Kaczynski's critique of technology is actually one of the best.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
I wish he hadn't killed people, of course, because I'm against killing.
Yeah.
But I also think it had the opposite of the intended effect. He did it in order to bring attention to his thesis and ended up obscuring it. But I really wish that every person in America would read.
Yeah. In a recent, it was when he was talking to Cernovich. Cernovich said something about raw dogging related to the flights. Like when you just I think Cernovich was talking about going out and going for a hike or walking out in nature or something and raw dogging it. And Tucker was like, raw dogging it? That's what they call it? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, weird. I thought raw dogging it was meant like no condoms. And Cernovich is like, well, yeah, like that's where it came from. So you can still see there's like Tucker, if anything, like I said, is, I don't know, kind of almost a little too naive and head in the clouds. He's not some like deep, cunning, malevolent intel op.
But not just his manifesto, but the book that he wrote from prison, because they're just so, at the least, they're thought-provoking and really important.
Yeah. I mean, briefly, and we'll get to existential risk in a second, but he talked about this thing called the power process, which is he thinks that it's intrinsic to human happiness to struggle for survival, to go through life as a child, as an adult, build up yourself, get married, have kids, and then become the elder and then die, right?
Exactly.
And he thinks that modern technology kind of disrupts this process and makes people miserable.
How do you know that?
I read it. I'm very curious. I read a lot of things, and I just don't have mental censorship in a way. Like I can,
I love that.
I'm really curious. I'll read anything.
Do you think being from another country has helped you in that way?
Yeah. And I think that just my childhood, I was like always different. When I had hair, it was all red. It was bright red. And my whole family is kind of, or at least half of my family are redheads. And because of that experience, I was like, okay, I'm different. I'm comfortable being different. I'll be different. And that just commitment to not worrying about anything, about conforming, or like it was forced on me that I'm not conforming just by virtue of being different and being curious and being, good with computers and all that. I think that carried me through life. It's just, I get like almost a disgust reaction to conformism and like mob mentality.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I had a similar experience. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
My bad, guys. Oh my God. Ah, I did it. I went and did it. Got it muted. All right. So you guys are going to take, I'm going to watch the comments keep going as you guys are catching up. What was I saying? Matt, blink if you could see us. Well, thank you for letting me know, guys. So the thing I said about Tucker was that he is a go finish and listen to the rest of that episode. I haven't finished it yet, but I strongly recommend it. I was cooking too. Yeah, I had some good thoughts, and I got to try to remember what they were. Well, anyways, so the other day, I think it was yesterday. Oh, that's what I was saying. So yesterday, I had a business call last night that started at midnight, went for a little over an hour, and then went to bed at like 3. And so all these different days are running together. But I think it was yesterday that I was talking about Perplexity, this AI-driven search engine, and I'm going to demonstrate to you the So I've discovered that Perplexity is really freaking cool, and I want to do a demonstration of it to show you kind of what I ran through yesterday. So there's this video about Jared Taylor, and let me just double check this to make sure it doesn't do like not what I want it to. Okay, so this is right. There's a new video that just dropped of Jared Taylor, but there's also an old video of Jared Taylor. And I think I've played it on here. I'm sure you guys have seen it before, but it's worth seeing. So I'm searching on Twitter for it. That's where I've seen it. And I did this for a while yesterday, like trying to find this one video edit of, oh, and here it is now, 11 hours ago. So it wasn't there when I was looking for it yesterday. I'm sitting here scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. I tried all different things, Jared Taylor fitness, Jared Taylor edit, like all different sorts of stuff. Couldn't find it anywhere. So I'm like, all right, well, and I searched Google, nothing. Well, went to YouTube even, tried to see if maybe someone they'd uploaded the edit. I couldn't find it anywhere. So I was like, well, let's see if Perplexity, let's see what it would do with me. So I just said Jared Taylor fitness video. And it's the first result here. It comes up. And it gives you a description of this. Jared Taylor, known as Uncle Jared in some circles, has created a fitness challenge video that has gained attention online. In this video, Taylor takes a break from his usual political content to issue a fitness challenge to his viewers. The video features Taylor demonstrating an exercise where he raises his arms fully above his head, emphasizing that anything short is cheap. So we'll watch the video, and then we'll come back to Perplexity here in a minute.
Listen up, man. This is your Uncle Jared. You think you're fit? You think you got the right stuff? Try to beat this. Arms all the way out. Anything short is cheating.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Keep working on it. Maybe by the time you're my age, maybe you'll be fit too.
It's so good. All right, so there's a new Jared Taylor video, and I'll show it to you guys in a minute. But before we do that, let's go through some more of this Perplexity thing. So he encourages viewers to keep working on their own fitness, suggesting that with time and effort, they too might reach his level of physical condition. This fitness challenge video has been described by some viewers as humorous, with one social media user calling it one of the funniest things I've seen all year. The video appears to have circulated on various platforms, including YouTube and alternative video hosting sites. It's worth noting that while this fitness video has gained attention, it seems to be a departure from Taylor's usual content. He is primarily known for his political commentary rather than fitness advice. More recently, there have been mentions of a new fitness challenge video from Taylor, though details about this newer content are limited based on the provided search results. How is that for a frickin' answer? You know what's not in there at all? There's no, there's no commentary whatsoever. There's no, offhand little phrase thrown in there smearing Jared Taylor. It's just like giving you just the bare facts about him. And it's also really up to date. And it's reading the video content and delivering it to you. Then you have follow-ups, and it recommends some. What is the Hyperborean Jared Taylor fitness video about? How effective is Jared Taylor's fitness challenge? Are there any other fitness videos by Jared Taylor? What kind of workouts does Jared Taylor recommend? How did people react to Jared Taylor's fitness video? And with each one of these, you can drill down into it. This can become a whole rabbit hole unto itself. On the available search results, reactions to Jared Taylor's fitness video were primarily characterized by amusement and humor. One social media user on Twitter described it as one of the funniest things I've seen all year. This suggests that many viewers found the video entertaining and comical rather than taking it as serious fitness advice. The video's title on some platforms refers to it as Uncle Jared's Fitness Challenge, indicating that it was presented in a somewhat lighthearted or informal manner, which likely contributed to its humorous reception. The video's content, as described in the transcript, shows Taylor demonstrating an exercise where he raises his arms fully above his head, saying anything short is cheap. This unconventional approach to fitness advice appears to have been perceived as amusing by viewers. The fact that this video represented a departure from Taylor's usual political content may have also contributed to its unexpected and thus humorous nature for his regular audience. You know what the voice... I just realized this voice, as distinct from like the typical really, smarmy, Longhausian voice of Wikipedia, is like, it's autistic. It's almost like emotionally empty. It's like someone who's describing a human interaction with zero like social context for it, just sort of describing the exact mechanics of it. Versus like this really emotionalized, oppressive, finger waggy, passive aggressive tone. So that kind of gives, I guess this kind of gives you an idea of what, like where things are going. The voice of the narrative has been like, just Longhouse right in your face all day. And now we're moving in a direction where it's like, it's going to be like autistic. It's just autism. And you can just keep drilling down into these. Now, I'll do another one. Who is King Pilled? King Pilled is a podcast hosted by Matt Erickson that delves into themes related to orthodoxy, monarchy, and contemporary societal issues. Launched in 2021, the podcast explores various philosophical and cultural topics, often questioning modern concepts of liberty and governance. It features discussions that challenge mainstream narratives and engages with ideas from both Eastern and Western philosophical traditions. The podcast has gained a following for its unique perspective, often reflecting on historical and cultural context to understand current events. It has published numerous episodes with topics ranging from political theories to critiques of modern societal structures. What is the PayPal Mafia theory discussed on King Pilled? Based on the search results, the PayPal Mafia theory discussed on King Pilled appears to be about the alleged political influence and moves being made by former PayPal executives and employees to change governmental functions and structures in the United States. Specifically, Matt Erickson, the host of King Pilled, shared his theory that the group known as the PayPal Mafia is making moves to change governmental function and structure in the U.S. In an episode of the Year Zero podcast, Matt Erickson discussed his observations of the political influence of tech titans, likely referring to PayPal Mafia members, and what this could mean for the country's politics. It's talking specifically stuff about the PayPal Mafia guys. While the exact details of the theory are not fully elaborated in the search results, it appears to center on the idea that the group of tech elites is attempting to reshape American governance according to their ideological leanings. What role does Matt Erickson believe the PayPal Mafia plays in current politics? How did Matt Erickson's views evolve regarding the PayPal Mafia? What are the main arguments Matt Erickson presents about the PayPal Mafia? I'm like, what the shit? There's someone who's like looking down my shoulder. Holy crap. Matt Erickson's views on the PayPal Mafia have evolved significantly over time, reflecting his broader ideological shifts. Initially, Erickson was deeply involved in the libertarian movement, even participating in the Mises Caucus within the Libertarian Party. However, his worldview has since shifted away from libertarianism toward a more complex and nuanced perspective that includes elements of Orthodox Christianity and critiques of modern societal structures. In his discussions on the PayPal mafia, Ericsson has articulated a theory that this group of influential former PayPal executives and employees is leveraging their power to reshape governmental functions and structures in the U.S. He shared this on various platforms, including the Year Zero podcast, where he discussed the political influence of these tech titans and what it can mean for the country's politics. Ericsson's evolving perspective appears to be driven by a broader disillusionment with libertarianism and a deeper engagement with the more traditional and hierarchical forms of governance, as well as a critical view of modern technological and political elites. This ideological journey is reflected in his podcast Kingpilled, where he explores themes related to orthodoxy, monarchy, and critiques of contemporary societal trends. This is... I've already switched over to using this as my default search. There's an app, you can download an app. There's got an iOS app, and there's like a free version and then a paid version. And the paid version integrates with ChatGPT. But this is, yeah, Tucker's on a spy. This fucking thing's a spy. Yeah. But like, this has been the trajectory all along. And there's lots of stuff that's really creepy about it, but there's also, like, this is tremendously useful. You could sit down and spend days just coming up with all the different ideas of things that this sort of technology would enable you to do. Some of them nefarious and some of them not. But I started getting this thought yesterday. I need to sit and think about this for a while and maybe write something. This thought kind of came to me as I was pondering this last night as I was falling asleep. The original internet was a network of nodes. The future internet is a node of networks. And I don't completely know what that means just yet, but I want to ponder that. And then I said, a search engine that shows you the internet versus a search engine that pulls from the internet. Because that's what this here is like. It's almost like your own website that draws in everything from the internet. So then when someone, like if I go to Google and then search for stuff and it takes me to all these different websites, this isn't taking me to websites. It's not actually, there aren't links in there. But for anything that you want to know, you can just ask the question and keep going through the prompts. So you're surfing through the internet, but you're doing it in a different manner. And instead of it being like you're going out and you're hopping from site to site to site, now you have one site that's pulling everything in and restructuring it and delivering it to you. And it can get vastly more context, so it can be much more up to date and current. But the trade-off for that is that you're having to accept that you're being told what to think explicitly now. This raises the stakes on this, because now you could get this great trade-off. You get this great payoff, rather, of having access to vastly more, much more up-to-date, immediately curated, and in real time being updated. Like that Jared Taylor thing, it referenced the second Jared Taylor video that just came out yesterday that I'm going to show you guys here in just a minute. So it's like immediately current and up to date. So as long as it maintains this like autism, then that's good. But this is an even more powerful brainwashing tool than the last. And this is the sort of stakes I think that a lot of these PayPal mafia sort of guys, ironically, they recognize. This is one of the things they talk about with AI. Why they don't want regulatory capture, because that's the thing that actually gets you the Skynet effect. Is the malevolent actors locking in their market share and outlawing all of their competition through weaponizing the executive branch. So these are the types of stakes these guys are thinking about when they go into this. This isn't just simply like, oh, well, you guys have a tax thing that I don't like, or, this is, you guys have gotten too crazy and it's annoying having to deal with DEI. And, there's like the grillionaires meme, the billionaires who just want to grill, shoot rockets into space and stuff. But they're also like, this is an existential issue, because allowing some of these companies to be able to lock in their market share, like, you're not going to be able to stop them from doing the evil things by locking them out. But by making everything open source, you can at least maintain the positive options and have some sort of battleground for it. So this is really interesting. I'm totally going to use Perplexity from now on, and I'm going to keep. I've noticed what I'm doing here now is if I'm just looking for a like a specific immediate data point, then I'll pop open on my phone it's Safari, on here it's Chrome, and I'll just pop it open and I'll just search for that thing because I know that like Google's going to have the result immediately at the top, like the definition of a word or someone's birthday or something. But I could easily see myself moving more and more to just using this as the search engine, and if it's like using a voice prompt, could just be like just pop it open, hey, what's so and so's birthday, and it'll just do the search for you. What I found where I'm definitely defaulting to this is more the more difficult searches or more nuanced, more vague kind of, because this is just so much more powerful in the way that it's gathering much more data. It seems obvious that it has the ability to listen to YouTube videos. Some of the stuff it says to me about here, I don't think I've written anywhere. I've only talked about it on YouTube videos. So it's accessing, it maybe is accessing transcripts. So it has the power to access those transcripts or create the transcripts or something like that. So it's just covering way, way more of the internet. It's very clear to me that this move is, like, this seems like the future to me. I can't imagine ever going back to something like Google searches with something like this available. Let me see what you guys are talking about here. Imagine that, a search engine that returns actual search results. My wife says, sounds like an alien trying to explain to other aliens. Yeah, that's true. That is. It is kind of like an alien species that's like, look at these odd things. Look at how they work. David says, is this neutrality and commentary a characteristic of the coming AI god that Elon Musk has mentioned? Probably, yeah. And I think honestly, I think the bigger, everyone's really on guard for like open malevolence and outright totalitarian evil, but I think the much more dangerous long-range threat is the allure of neutrality. And this kind of goes along with the neo-trads prediction that Jason at the 2-Bit podcast has made, having the this giving lip service to Christian values and being outwardly Christian, but then like great evil and malevolence stirs underneath. I think the danger of falling into a kind of coddled, blissfully unaware neutrality and just sort of existing. I think that's much more subversive and alluring and much more dangerous in the long run than the incredibly incompetent, like ridiculously over the top, comically evil things like the Last Supper thing at the beginning of the Olympics. That sort of thing, I think, is much less of a long-term threat than the kind of passive neutrality stance. Amy said, it's someone outside the circle trying to explain to other people outside the circle, but trying to sound like they're inside the circle. Uncanny Valley explains. Yeah, that's a good point. Josiah says, the irony is that the world being as it is, one can't find themselves far right without being high in openness. That's a really good point. Holy crap. High in openness correlating to far right. That's a point that I want to see someone throw that at Jordan Peterson, because I think he would start sputtering. High in openness corresponding to far right. I'm going to be pondering that one for a while. I really want to just sit here and ponder it right now, but that doesn't make for good radio. So I'm going to keep moving forward. Okay, let's get back to this Jared Taylor thing. So first of all, we've got the original video, and then we have an edit, and you need to see both of them. Here's the original video.
Comments on my video saying, okay, Taylor, enough about race. How about another exercise video? Okay, here's one. I'm going to be 73 in 2 months. Let's see how many pull-ups I can do. And I do them really formal, all the way down, lock out. Otherwise, you just can't compare one person to another. Here goes. Let's see how many I can do. Not bad for geezer, huh?
So he gets 12. Euthanasia just goes face first into the insulation. Some of the replies on this were...
I've been having comments.
Let me see if I can find them. Oh, wow. Andrew McCarthy says, not a joke. I've been told by a mutual that he usually works out naked. Oh, man. He's doing all that while huffing the formaldehyde fiberglass particulates. Great job, Jared Taylor. I don't know what's more savage, doing that many pull-ups at age 72 or working out with zero music and only the sound of your own heavy breathing. Mouth breathing, and he had another one in the tank. Those some clean reps no matter the age, but for his age, he's a machine. There was another one saying something. Yeah, this one. I love how he neatly tucks his shirt in his shorts, even though it's just pull-ups in the basement. Always respectable. Why is this man not on the Japanese Olympic team? So that original edit that I showed you of the other one, I don't know if this guy Fraser Payne is the one who did it, but go follow this dude, Fraser Payne, at Mine Got Niles on Twitter. He is amazing. He cranked this out. Let's see, what was the timing here? This was at 4:13 p.m.
3.
Okay, so 5 hours later. I am in awe.
I'm going to be 73 in 2 months. Let's see how many pull-ups I can do. And I do them really formal, all the way down, lock out. Otherwise, you just can't compare one person to another. Here goes. Let's see how many I can do. I'm going to be 70.
Oh my God. When I first watched that +1 Hitler points, it got me just the same as it did last time. This is right-wing art. There's something so cool, so cool and profound about that. Coming up with that idea, I cannot imagine. My brain doesn't work this way. I'm so fascinated by people who have this in them, where their brain is just like, hey, here's the way we should do this. If I was like, hey, here's a cool video, we should make an edit of this video, I wouldn't have. It would take me weeks to come up with something like that. I am so glad that we have our video editing autists to bless us with this content. Okay. Here's another good wholesome video that a couple of you guys sent me.
Every woman becomes their mother. That's their tragedy. And no man becomes his. That's his tragedy. Many women, not all of them, spend a lot of their time trying not to end up like their mother. But as they grow older, they always do. Whereas men, not all of them, spend most of their time trying to become their father. They try to live up to their father and step into his shoes. But they never do. Because as they grow older, those shoes become bigger, until it becomes too big, and they realize they'll never be like their fathers. It's their curse. That's the nature of being a parent. You'll love your children far more than you ever loved your parents. And, in the recognition that your own children cannot fathom the depth of your love, you come to understand the tragic, unrequited love of your own parents. Every woman becomes...
This is also very good right-wing art. This is the kind of shit, guys. Like this is the stuff that it's got 34,000 views, this particular post of it. Getting this sort of thing, making this stuff well, and then getting it to go viral, there's so much power in it. This is the way people's minds and hearts are moved today. This is the system that's been created and then attempted to be corralled off to be used as a mind control device, but it's spilled out into the public sector. Not public sector, technically. You know what I mean? It's now publicly available, this technology. And it's a military scale technology for mind control, programming, propaganda. And it's at our disposal. It's there to be used by us. Shout out to those of you guys who are taking advantage of it. Another white pill story. Mizzou eliminates DEI division, bowing to Republican political pressure. Well, if they're going to say that Republicans are able to exert political pressure, then Republicans should be exerting political pressure, and that's what's happening. Shout out to guys like Chris Rufo and Robbie Starbuck, and they've turned the tide on DEI. There's plenty of powerful interests behind them that want to see that tide turned, and so that's what we're getting. Got to keep the pedal to the metal, though. Competency crisis. This is something that's deeply integrated with the story of DEI, and I saw this was just striking to me scrolling through Twitter yesterday. So this chick, a they them chaotic queer cryptid by night, just a real quality character. Can't make this up. Got a rare illustration job offer in my inbox. It's for a tarot deck. 80 illustrations, all due in 1 year, all rights included for, wait for it, $50 per card. Sorry, but if I'm ever doing a tarot deck, I need to be paid a living wage. Absolute buffoonery. This reads like a Sam Hyde skit or something. We've got a they them on Twitter who is being offered $4,000 to make 80 illustrations over the course of a year. And she's posting about they is posting about being upset about not getting a living wage, like a living wage for. I think someone did the math on one of her replies. There's a whole thing going on. It was viral for a while, 8.5 million impressions. Somebody did the math on what she was proposing, and it came out to like $375,000 for this project. That's what she thought was a living wage. So this chick replies to her and says, can you forward them to me instead? Because I'd take it. I'll very happily take 4K plus to design a deck of cards. And she says, do you know what tarot is? And she says, I've literally practiced it for years. So yeah, I do. Hence me saying I could and would gladly do it for 4K. She says, that helps that you're already familiar with it. Consider that you're expected to create full color, detailed after writer weight, multiple revisions, keep no copyright, and the entire set of 80 illustrations are due in 13 months. Like I'm being so dead ass, forward me their info. I'll very happily take the job since you don't want it. This chick here wound up getting shat all over by people for undercutting her market value. If you go do that project, if you go get that $4,000, she says repeatedly, like $4,000 is more than I have now. It's $4,000 more than I have now. I'd happily do the project. And the chick would never give her the job. They went back and forth on it for a while. She wouldn't give her the details, and everyone started dunking on this chick for being, basically like being a scab. That's the posture that they had toward her. And a related story to this, Wanye Burkett, a guy I started following recently. Oh, hey, I didn't even know he followed me. He's got good posts. He quote tweets this. Okay, there's layers to this. Let's back up. So, initial screenshot. The Sarah Kelly says, I admit it's a low priority, but I would support legislation that made pet rent illegal. I don't know how we normalized this practice over the last decade or so, but it's a scam. There is simply no way my dog is doing an extra $500 a year in damage or wear and tear. I already put down a deposit. It is already legal to bill and sue me for damages exceeding the deposit. You're just being greedy. And Kendrick Ton says, there are several things one could say about this, but the thing that's getting me is the evident belief that $500 is a lot of damage, instead of like the absolute lowest number in which fixing problems on a property is denominated. So you can tell there's this phenomenon that has developed. This chick has never owned a house or never even been remotely close to or involved in owning a house. She doesn't have the foggiest idea how much it costs to own a house. She resents the fact that she doesn't get to own a house, but she has no idea what it costs to own a house. That $500 is nothing. You're lucky if you could get a repair bill that's $500 or less. It's like, oh, good. Whew. And this is a like a rampant perspective, and you almost like you can't blame these people for not knowing. But what they don't know that they don't know. This is an unknown for them. Which makes them, they succeed despite being completely deluded, they succeed in imposing their values on us through sheer willpower. Just like blind retard strength politically. We don't need to be subjected to them. We just have to say no to them. Wanye Burkett says, I know I sound like an old man yelling at a cloud sometimes, but you have to really truly accept it deep down in your bones that the defining characteristic of these young communist types is that they don't know anything. They've never been in charge of anything, never run a business, never hired anybody, never owned a house, never had to fix anything, never been a parent, never been responsible for anything or anybody. They talk endlessly about lived experience, but they don't actually have any. A banger. He says they're like the communist version of Lucille Bluth, not knowing what a banana costs. They don't know anything. They have dumb intuitions that don't correspond with anything real. Ron Howard voice. It's Arrested Development. Coalburner says that's why I always have a hard time labeling leftists as evil. They got their driver's license 2 years ago. All that sounds like Marx himself, so this tracks. Absolutely, and mixed with main character syndrome, it makes for a very toxic brew. Can you believe this totally normal, rational, justifiable, and widespread thing is happening to me? Again, these are not people that need to be debated. They don't need to be considered. They need to be governed. They need people to say no to them. In big things and in little things. And it helps to start with the little things. Just say no. So speaking of vapid young people, I saw a lot of people wigging out about this video. Official statement from Kyle Rittenhouse on the 2024 presidential race.
Outreach director for Texas gun rights. A lot of people are upset that I said I'm going to be writing in Ron Paul for president of the United States. And that is true. I will be writing in Ron Paul. Unfortunately, Donald Trump had bad advisors making him bad on the Second Amendment, and that is my issue. If you cannot be completely uncompromisable on the Second Amendment, I will not vote for you, and I will write somebody else in. We need champions for the Second Amendment, or our rights will be eaten away and eroded each day. I support my decision, and I have no takebacks.
So, lots of hullabaloo about this. I just want to point out, first of all, how transparently obvious it is that he's reading something written for him. He's reading a script. He's got this blank, monotone voice, which is kind of how he talks anyways. And look at the guy. He's a good shot. He performed incredibly well. Like, he has a natural gift. He performed incredibly well under pressure. He is also probably like an 85 IQ, if that. He's very obviously he's not a Rhodes Scholar. And you could see, like, he's some young kid, and think about this. Think about this outside the media narrative. He's some young kid, has this whole big thing, becomes one of the most famous people in the world overnight. But he's from, like low middle class, not that bright. He's not really going anywhere with his life. But now he's a brand, and that brand has value, and his voice is worth something. So someone comes and just buys him, and they're like, hey, here, come here. Come here. I'm going to buy your political brand. I'm now going to own it, and I'm going to direct what it does. And we need to make it look like you're doing something. We need to make it look like you're the celebrity, and we're just, oh, wow, look at Kyle. Ah. So we're going to go around and give some speeches. Just go talk to college kids and make some social media content of you out shooting and stuff. So he's just I don't know how old he is, like 22 or whatever. He's just like your average retarded 22-year-old who got some token job and someone says, here, read this statement. Oh, okay. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, can I shoot again? Do not be taking this person seriously. If you're freaking out about this guy sitting here obviously reading a script and he's like semi-literate, he has to pause and really think before he goes uncompromisable.
Second Amendment, and that is my issue. If you cannot be completely uncompromisable on the Second Amendment, I will not vote for you, and I will write somebody else in.
He seems like he's probably kind of autistic, like he has no emotional inflection in his voice whatsoever. He doesn't even have the instincts to be like, hey, I should make this seem like it's natural and from the heart. He literally is just, someone stuck a phone in his face and said, read this. And okay. Don't take this dude seriously. Now, you can take seriously the people behind him because they're signaling what they're doing. They're signaling their political allegiances by using their little prop to make a statement about Trump being weak on guns or something. Like, what? Like, where in the fuck did this come from? Nobody's been talking about anything remotely related to this. But that's like his thing. And so they're just going to, hey, statement, word against Trump. That's all this is. All right. More competency crisis. Joshua Steinman, who was this is a good guy to follow, good guy to keep track of. He was part of the Trump National Security Council, and he's very closely adjacent to the Gundo world. He says plane is stuck on the runway at the Burbank Airport in California because the airport hasn't noticed that the plane landed and needs to park. The airport isn't responding over the radio, etc. Pilots literally just called corporate HQ to ask them to try and get in touch with ops folks at the airport. Now, I have got to, he says, just heard from the cockpit, looks like they're getting it squared away now. 15 minutes, though, with a commercial airliner on the apron. No comms, nothing. Not good. My family is going to be flying to up to Washington State in a couple of months. And, man, I've never had a problem with flying. Like, I think it's fun. I love traveling. I've flown a bunch of times and enjoyed it every time. But I'm not going to lie. Now I'm kind of like, all right, let's get this over with. Because, like, this, I don't give a shit about all your, like, world master world domination plans and secret men in dark closets and whatever. I don't give a shit about any of that. I want the fucking planes to work. I want to know that I can go hop on a plane and fly from one place to the other. We can solve the problems of the master Illuminati communists once we make sure the planes run on time. How about that? Give me planes that function. Give me a functioning economy. Give me safe neighborhoods and lots of opportunities for my guys. You give me that, we can negotiate on everything else. Related point here, and actually I think, let's see here. No, actually, I was not going to talk about that yet, so we're going to push that off till later. Okay, I got some Kamala Harris stuff. I got some Trump stuff. I got some J.D. Vance stuff. I've got the Secretary of State candidate for Missouri. We've got a quote from a Trump and Zuckerberg related thing. And then... Okay, yeah, then we're going to talk about some really interesting AI stuff. Hulk Hogan and Gawker and Peter Thiel, new founding, and we'll wrap it off with a couple of comments. So, first Kamala story. Bully Kamala Harris berated staff, left them in tears after berating them with F-bombs. Intern told never to make eye contact. Report. So this is coming from the New York Post, published August 2, 2024. I don't know where this story came from, but I kind of suspect this story is not coming from Republican sources, let's say. So the story is a signal as to what's going on behind the scenes. Kamala Harris throws around F-bombs and constantly berated her staff when she was California Attorney General, according to a shocking report. An unearthed 2019 op-ed, so I wonder who unearthed it, from Professor Terry McAteer, published in California newspaper The Union, describes the eye-opening month his son Gregory spent as an intern for Harris, now the presumptive Democratic nominee for president. McAteer, a Democrat with generational political ties to the party, claimed his son was subjected to a, quote, side of Kamala Harris which the general public does not know. He looks like the type of guy who would want to work for Kamala Harris. Harris vocally throws around F-bombs and other profanity constantly in her berating of staff and others, McAteer wrote. As AG, Harris instructed her entire staff to stand every morning as she entered the office and say, "Good morning, General." This woman is retarded. Attorney General is not a general. The general here is not a general in terms of like general of the army. It's general as in general, like broad. That's why you don't say attorney generals. You say attorneys general. She doesn't even understand the basic legal context of the job title. She's not a general. She's an attorney general, as opposed to an attorney specific. She's an attorney general, but she's an attorney. This is a retarded attorney. Quote, Gregory was also given instructions to never address Harris nor look her in the eye, as that privilege was only allowed to senior staff members. Couldn't even look her in the eye. The article, titled Another Side to Kamala Harris, also alleged staff members did not initiate an introduction on Gregory's behalf because they were, quote, in complete fear of her when she served as Attorney General of California from 2011 to 2017. Is it any wonder that California has turned into a complete shithole? The most important lawyer in the state was like this, is both retarded and malevolent. Terrence and Gregory McAteer could not be reached for comment on Thursday, and representatives for Harris did not immediately respond to questions from the Post. So this isn't coming from them, like Terrence and Gregory McAteer rebooting the story and being like, hey, here's the thing that happened to us. She shouldn't be president. This is called Oppo research. Oppo from whom? Is this a Republican leak? I don't know. It could be. But I kind of suspect that this is intra-democratic warfare here. McAteer went on to say that he has nothing against Harris, but she didn't show the quality of leadership skills or a decent boss one might expect during his son's summer internship. Red State reports Gregory's LinkedIn page, which now appears to have been pulled down, shows that he worked as a public policy intern for Harris from June to August 2011. She was previously dubbed a bully by a staffer. It's clear that you're not working with someone who's willing to do the prep and the works, the former staffer told the Washington Post in December of that year. With Kamala, you have to put up with a constant amount of soul-destroying criticism and also her own lack of confidence, which is an interesting point, I think. So you're constantly sort of propping up a bully, and it's not really clear why. McAteer's op-ed reemerged after OpenTheBooks.com, which describes itself as a government watchdog organization, reported last week that Harris is experiencing a 91.5% staff turnover rate within the office of the vice president. 91.5% staff turnover rate. This is why I really wanted to highlight this article. This here. That figure significantly surpasses President Joe Biden's staff turnover rate of 77% and former President Donald Trump's rate of 72% during their terms, according to the site. Do you remember when it was a big story about how Trump could never get any staff to stick around? He was constantly turning them over, constantly firing, or people were resigning, and it was happening over and over and over again. 91.5%. The organization, citing payroll records, says as of March 31, 2024, only 4 of the initial 47 staffers employed during Harris's first year as vice president in 2021 are still working for her, quote, consistently and without interruption. Only 4 of the initial 47. That probably, with numbers like this, that probably tells you something about those 4. I'd be very interested to know who those 4 are. I don't think it's just that there was 47 and the 4 have just decided to stick it out. Harris reportedly has 50 staff currently working for her as she campaigns for the presidency after Biden sensationally dropped out of the race on July 21. Okay. So more Kamala stuff. Yesterday, this is an RNC research tweet, Kamala, after spending 30 plus minutes in her vehicle preparing, opens her binder to read prepared remarks in front of the press. She hasn't taken a single question since she forced Biden off the ballot. This is intentional. Look at her body language. Look at her facial expression.
You guys out in the heat. Okay.
So that's the start. And then this was at the end. Kamala ignores questions after reading a very brief statement directly from her binder. Now watch this as she walks away, and then watch the salute that she gives.
Thank you all. Madam Vice President, will you be meeting Evan and Paul when they return?
This is not a confident woman. She looks incredibly unhappy with what's happening here. She looks super stressed out, and she's being very carefully handled through this. To me, she looks like someone who's negotiating a buyout. Like she's going to get bought out and replaced with someone. I'm sticking by this. I don't think she's going to be the candidate. I think she's going to get replaced. Bonchi Red State says, this is her strategy. She's cosplaying as president while not having to do any of the actual work. Scripted statements from a podium like she's giving a national address. The I'm very serious march off and salute before boarding the plane. All of this is focus grouped. And I think he's right about that. And that salute, all of her body language, she's very tense. She's very, her face is tight and she looks really stressed out. And then the salute was just kind of like, she's kind of tucking and she's like, this isn't like aloof confidence. She's like shrinking into herself and just kind of got to give my salute and get up the stairs here. And oh God, okay, I don't have to be in front of those people anymore. She looks very insecure to me. This is at the funeral for Sheila Jackson Lee, I believe is her name. She accidentally refers to herself as the president.
Children, she founded the Congressional Children's Caucus, and as a leader who believed deeply that America's true and full history must be acknowledged and honored, it was Sheila Jackson Lee whose bill made Juneteenth a federal holiday, which as a United States Senator I was proud to co-sponsor, and then as Vice President, it was my honor, with the President, it was my honor with our President Joe Biden to stand beside Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Just she kind of looks like Gollum right here. What's very interesting is, so you guys talking here in the chat about her saluting. Do presidents usually salute? Patrick says, I would say they usually salute to members of the armed forces. So the president, I think, always salutes like that. I don't know about the vice president. Does anybody know? Like, does the vice president usually salute the guards at the plane like that? Because there's the famous video of Trump. The guy's hat blows off and Trump goes and picks up his hat and puts it back on and then salutes him. And Trump always stopped and gave him a strong salute. And even Biden usually gets up there and gives his salute. But I don't know if the vice president does. And it's kind of interesting. Like Biden withdrew from the campaign, but officially he's still the president. But now nobody's paying any attention to him or what he's doing or saying, and everyone's just paying attention to Kamala. And now this is why it's interesting to me, does the vice president usually do that? Okay, random username is saying Pence did. So it is a normal thing for the vice president to do. But even still, she's being treated essentially like she's the president. And I think the rub here is that she's not the president and neither is Biden. Both of them are just essentially actors playing a role. They have casting and they've got scripting and their job is to play that role. And I think she wants her buyout. She doesn't want to continue this into the next the next season. She's like, buy me out now, write me out of the story, and those terms are being negotiated. She has so many of these stories and these clips, and every time they put her in front of the camera, she adds even more to it. Here's an unearthed clip the Blaze tweeted out, or actually Mega War Room originally tweeted it. This is exactly the sort of thing that they need to just be amplifying all over the place. Forget all these stupid policy conversations. The policy stuff doesn't matter. This is the stuff that matters.
And when we all sing happy tunes and sing Merry Christmas and wish each other Merry Christmas, these children are not going to have a Merry Christmas. How dare we speak Merry Christmas? How dare we?
Imagine having that clip on the record and running for president. How dare we sing Merry Christmas? How dare we say Merry Christmas? The definition of Scrooge. You don't argue. You can't argue with this. This is not like a rational, logical thing. There's literally not a single person on the planet that looks at that and goes, oh yeah. They're like, what? And then they might kind of post hoc rationalize, oh, okay, I guess I kind of see what she's saying. But just keep plastering these all over. I want to see as many of these as you can get. Comparatively, I cannot wait to see this debate between Vance and Kamala. Or I guess the debate, it won't be between Vance and Kamala anymore. I would love to see a debate between Vance and Kamala. Here's Vance's response to the thing. So yesterday I played the clips of Trump at the NABJ conference, and the libs are all about identity stuff. And this is Vance's response.
The former president's comments yesterday to the National Association of Black Journalists, where he said that Vice President Harris is, quote, all of a sudden black. As a father of 3 biracial children, did those comments give
all of a sudden? I hate it when people say this. It's all of a sudden, not all of a sudden.
All of a sudden black. As a father of 3 biracial children, did those comments give you pause at all?
They don't give me pause at all. Look, all he said is that Kamala Harris is a chameleon. She goes to Georgia 2 days ago. She was raised in Canada. She puts on a fake Southern accent. She is everything to everybody, and she pretends to be somebody different depending on which audience she's in front of. I think it's totally reasonable for the president to call that out, and that's all he did. I mean, look, she's running as a tough-on-crime prosecutor, even though she implemented open border policies. She's saying that she wants to support the police, yet she wanted to defund the police just 3 years ago. It's totally reasonable to call out the fact that she pretends to be somebody different depending on the audience she's talking to.
Perfect response. And this is where JD's at his best. From all the listening to him that I've done, when he's on a prompter, on a teleprompter, he comes off a little awkward. When he did his RNC speech, he kind of kept stumbling over his words, trying to get through, stick with the prompter. But whenever he went off of it and kind of riffed and just told a story and just talked, when he talks on a podcast and everything, he's very well spoken and he's able to organize his thoughts a lot better, which I think is actually a sign of authenticity. If you struggle to speak on a teleprompter, that's actually a sign of more, to me, it's a signal of like humility and authenticity and sincerity. You're much more inclined to sincerity. So doing something that's kind of insincere, where you're like reading remarks somebody else prepared for you, if you have a hard time doing that, that actually is probably a signal that you're a more sincere person. And when you can just speak extemporaneously off the cuff and come across really natural and authentic doing it like he does, then like these are signs. I see the same thing with Tucker, and Trump is very similar as well. Trump is able to read the prompter well, but he he will never stick to it. He's always going to throw in his little editorializing and parenthetical thoughts and everything. So these are little things to me that I'm looking for when I'm trying to evaluate how much is this person just pandering to me and how much do they seem authentic and sincere in what they're saying. So I think I had a number of people send me this video yesterday as well. I don't think people fully appreciate how much the vibe has shifted. This is a candidate for Missouri Secretary of State. Her name is Valentina Gomez, and she's been putting these sorts of things together for a little while now. She likes to be edgy. I think she is not someone that seems authentic to me whatsoever. I think she's 100% astroturfed. But it's interesting to me that somebody sees value in astroturfing something like this. This is super cringy, but it's funny we're at a point where a candidate for Missouri Secretary of State posts this video.
These faggots should get their own faggot category, because before, if a man hit a woman, it used to land him in jail. Now, it gets you a gold medal at the Olympics. These are the worst Olympics in history. They have made a mockery out of Christianity and women. And let me remind you, there's no such thing as a chick with a dick. Keep women's sports female.
She is absolutely going to have a career regardless of what happens with her election. Yeah, sorry, Mama. When I planned to play that one, I forgot that my wife might be listening to that with my son in the car. But she's absolutely going to have a media career. There's some of these characters like Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene or who are some other ones who I think they run them not necessarily planning for them to win, but then sometimes they do win, and so that they've got to like play this balancing act between an actual congressperson and just an internet influencer. And she strikes me as one that they're like, hey, if she wins, then okay, we'll figure out how to we'll work with that. But we're creating a new influencer. This is a new vector for us to capture people's minds with, and she's absolutely going to get. I'm sure she has a large audience. I know lots and lots of guys who would absolutely dig a hot Latina chick dropping F slurs and while she's running for office, and then of course she has to do the immediately flash to a picture of her in her like military get up and with her gun and everything, and that's what all of her other stuff has been. She was like running with gear on or something like that, and talking about how badass she is and everything. She's very much targeted to a particular demographic. Okay, so we got a clip from Benny Johnson here. Trump talking about Mark Zuckerberg reaching out to him after the assassination attempt.
I said that the picture wasn't altered. At first they said it was altered, and then they said, no, it was a bug. So it was a mistake.
Sorry, the other context with this is the image of his, the famous image of his, the fist pump with the flag and the Secret Service agents and everything was being flagged on Facebook as saying it was faked or altered or whatever. That's the context here.
The point is these companies would not allow any information out about what happened.
So Mark Zuckerberg called me. First of all, he called me a few times. He called me after the event, and he said that was really amazing. It was very brave, and and he actually announced he's not going to support a Democrat because he can't, because he respected me for what I did that day. I think what I did maybe was to me, it was a normal response. But I was called by Mark Zuckerberg yesterday, the day before, on this same subject. And he actually apologized. He said they made a mistake, et cetera, and they're correcting the mistake. Google, nobody called from Google. One of the things, like doing a show like yours, your show, you see it on Fox. But where you really see it is all over the place. They take clips of your show that you're doing right now with me. And if I do a good job, they're going to vote for me. They're going to vote for me because it's not just on Fox. It's on Fox is a smaller part of it. You're on all over those little beautiful cell phones. You're all over the place. You have a product. You have a great product. You have a great brand. So you have to get out. You have to get out. You have to do things like your show and other shows. And Google has been very bad. They've been very irresponsible. And I have a feeling that Google is going to be close to shutdown because I don't think Congress is going to take it. I really don't think so. Google has to be careful. Now, I will say this. I believe Mark Zuckerberg, he called me a lot. They are working on, and I think they fixed it.
But what could
and he's not doing what he did 4 years ago with the $500 million, I don't believe.
It's kind of interesting hearing Trump talking his way through that, like talking about, you could tell it's something that he has kind of an innate understanding for, but then he's also repeating stuff that other people have told him about the necessity of doing these interviews and promoting his own brand. And he's speaking in like social media influencer terms, but he's like a boomer that's sort of trying to incorporate this into his own worldview and then describe it. And then having things like the different social media platforms censoring is a big deal then, because then he's not being able to actually be directly interfacing with the people. They're intermediating between him and the people and not allowing him to actually present himself authentically. So there's been a very clear change in Mark Zuckerberg's tone over the last 4 years. We've talked a lot about some of my theories about what Zuckerberg's role was 4 years ago in the election fortification, and then conveniently not being involved in it now, and what that sort of signals. And I think that Zuckerberg's new image is very authentic. You can't start participating in these like strong masculine activities without it having a profound effect on you. Okay, let's keep on going through here. Do me a favor and hit the like button. We got 98 watching right now and 39 likes. So let's get it up at least over 50%. Taylor Brown says he sounds like a man who thinks he has Zuckerberg in his pocket but can't actually say that. Yeah, definitely. Also, David said something about Christianity followed by angry cussing rap music. Yeah, this is the neo-trads for you. This Valentina Gomez or whatever her name is, like Jason talks about the neo-trads. This is part of the neo-trad thing. It's going to be a combination of like open advocacy of Christianity mixed with some kind of degeneracy, and just the hypocrisy or the irony of it is not going to be lost on people. It's going to be very annoying. You just got to get used to it because it's going to happen no matter what. Now this video was very interesting. Just kind of dropped out of nowhere. I watched this really closely to see if it was authentic, and it looks like it's authentic. AF Post says Trump says he will create a special commission to investigate big pharma for the rise of autism, autoimmune diseases, infertility, and child illness. So now Trump is making his overture to the RFK voters.
In recent decades, there has been an unexplained and alarming growth in the prevalence of chronic illnesses and health problems, especially in children. We've seen a stunning rise in autism, autoimmune disorders, obesity, infertility, serious allergies, and respiratory challenges. It's time to ask, what is going on? Is it the food that they eat, the environment that we live in, the overprescription of certain medications? Is it the toxins and chemicals that are present in our homes? Every year we spend hundreds of billions of dollars to treat these chronic problems rather than looking at what is causing them in the first place. Too often our public health establishment is too close to big pharma. They make a lot of money, big pharma, big corporations and other special interests, and does not want to ask the tough questions about what is happening to our children's health. If big pharma defrauds American patients and taxpayers or puts profits above people, they must be investigated and held accountable. When I'm back in the White House, I will establish a special presidential commission of independent minds who are not bought and paid for by big pharma, and I will charge them with investigating what is causing the decades-long increase in chronic illnesses. I understand big pharma, I believe, better than anybody else. I know where they're coming from. And then I will ask them to publish recommendations for how every American child can have a safe and healthy childhood. This is a conversation that is long overdue, and it's a conversation that American families deserve. American families must have this conversation, and they must have a leader, a president, who can do something about this problem. And I will do that. Thank you.
This is based, indeed, Duffhead. Obviously, who knows who's going to wind up on the special commission, and it's going to get subverted, and there's going to be, the snakes involved and whatever. But I like this direction. Let's keep it going. Give me more. Gimme more. This was an interesting quote from Trump from one of his last speeches. Dago Supremacy highlighted this. He said, was watching Trump rally from Minnesota the other day, and this snippet stood out to me.
If they don't cheat, we win this state easily, okay? They cheat. They have no shame. They cheat. Do you understand that, you crooked people? They're the most crooked. They cheated in the last election, and they're going to cheat in this election, but we're going to get them. They used COVID to cheat. And this time they'll try and find something, but we think we have them blocked. They have no shame whatsoever. You know, the amazing thing is the press.
So he says, quoting, they cheated in the last election and they're going to cheat in this election, but we're going to get them. They're going to try to find something else, but we have them blocked. Seems very confident. That was my takeaway from it as well. This guy says, who was it on the right who said they were standing up a ballot harvesting operation? I know it was someone prominent, but I've never seen hide nor hair of it since then. He said, not sure, but I hope they really did it. And this guy says it was Scott Pressler. He works with the RNC now. And I do know that there was a back and forth there. I don't remember if they talked about ballot harvesting, but Scott Pressler was talking about his ground game, and he was trying to get involved with the RNC. And then Vivek gave him a shout out. And then I do know that there's now a formal relationship between Scott Pressler and the RNC. Really hope this isn't Trump hyperbole. Same. This guy says, I'm sure they could pretty easily have Project Veritas / Prince undercovers all over important points throughout the country this time. I think this is a really interesting point as well. Okay, and then obviously you've got the black pillars, but obviously this could be Trump hyperbole. They could be, they could have some sort of operation. That operation could be subverted. They could have one operation, but it could not be enough. It could be completely fake. They don't have anything whatsoever. Who knows? Who knows? But I think it's an interesting comment, and I think there could be some potential weight behind it, but we will have to wait and see. I really agree with Scott Adams here in this point. He says, so he's highlighting this article from TechCrunch that says Zuckerberg says Meta will need 10x more computing power to train Llama 4 than Llama 3. And Scott Adams says, you know how Vivek says Republicans need to upgrade their story to something more future-oriented and optimistic. He's right. Energy is the story. We need more of it to avoid wars. We need it to survive wars. We need it to lower inflation. We need it for electric cars. We need it for self-driving taxis. We need it for robots. We need it for AI. The U.S. must become an energy monster at a scale that is currently unimaginable. Only one candidate and one party can reasonably promise to make that a priority. So there's 2 points in here I want to highlight. One of them is having something that's future-oriented and optimistic. And this is just a basic sales thing, sales and marketing. If you want people to value the things you value, then you need to present it to them in a future-oriented, optimistic way. That's just how humans are wired. If you're angry and critical and fearful and you just come off as unpleasant and bad, negative energy vampire, like nobody wants to be around you. Nobody wants to value your values because then they get close to you and they're like, ew, yuck, get it away. And then the second point is that I think this is exactly right. Energy is the story. And I think there's levels to this. Energy in terms of literally like the energy industry, which I agree is a major winning issue and is a source for building a pretty large coalition, very powerful coalition. But also, on a more esoteric level, energy is the story. The side with the energy, the side with the momentum, the side with the optimistic, positive, uplifting view of the future will carry the day. The one that can convince the most people that that's the side that they occupy, that will be the side that wins the day. The side that comes off as the most fearful and critical and negative and pessimistic, and that side will not. So there's kind of a paradox here where you have to be able to emphasize how desperate the times are, how great the stakes are, while also not just coming off as an obnoxious doomer. Because nobody wants to be around obnoxious doomers. Okay. So we're going to kind of pivot away from the political as much now. And we got a couple things about AI. And then Hulk Hogan and Peter Thiel. New founding. And then a couple comments from a couple of friends. So AI. Angry Tom tweets on Twitter, says, AI is getting out of hand. These are some insane videos being made using Luma AI and Midjourney. So we've been tracking this for a while, the increase in quality. So there's a few here. One of them is a Game of Thrones festival.
Cool, kick the the nation with the grooves, then we rock the place when the bass gets smooth. Dance with the vibes get loose. I hit the floor directed to the roof. Ooh, kick the nation with the grooves, then we rock the place when the bass gets smooth. Dance with the vibes get loose. I hit the floor directed to the roof. Ooh, kick the nation with the grooves, then we rock the place when the bass gets smooth. Dance with the vibes get loose. I hit the floor directed to the roof. Ooh, kick the nation with the grooves, then we rock the place when the bass gets smooth. Dance with the vibes get loose. I hit the floor directed to the roof. Ooh, kick the nation with the grooves, then we rock the place when the bass gets smooth. Cool, kick the nation with the
Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, Stephen Hawking edition. If you are an aspiring artist, now is a very good time to be alive. There are so many different vehicles you can use, pardon the pun, for your art. And you can make it really sophisticated and really absurd and really catchy. This is a good time. We need more right-wing propaganda. We've got the best tools in the world for it. Lord of the Rings Festival. It's the same song as before, which kind of sucks.
Cool, kick the nation with the grooves, then we rock the place when the bass gets smooth. Dance with the vibes get loose. I hit the floor directed to the roof. Cool, kick the nation with the grooves, then we rock the place when the bass gets smooth. Dance with the vibes get loose. I hit the floor directed to the roof. Cool, kick the nation with the grooves, then we rock the place when the bass gets smooth. Dance with the vibes get loose. I hit the floor directed to the roof. Cool, kick the nation with the grooves, then we rock the place when the bass gets smooth. Dance with the vibes get loose. I hit the floor directed to the roof. Cool, kick the nation with the grooves, then we rock the place when the bass gets smooth. Cool, kick the nation with the grooves, then we
this one here is a Travis Scott. So it's using his album covers.
Just come outside for the night. Take your time, get your life, got it done.
And then another one for Kendrick Lamar. So it's like it's taking all of the album covers and then animating between them.
What that?
Come on.
Certified lover boys, certified pedophiles. What that? Fuck 'em up. What? I'ma do my stuff. Why you trolling like a bitch? Ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor. They not like us. Certified lover boy.
Shrek 5 trailer. Here's the link. I'll post this in the chat. Gotham Streets vibe.
Upon me, blood in my eye, dog, and I can't see. I'm trying to be what I'm destined to be, and niggas trying to take my life away. I put a hole in a nigga for fucking with me. My back on the wall, now you gon' see. Better watch how you talk when you talk about me, cause I'll come and take your life away. Many men.
These niggas talking out of their neck. Don't put no coffin out of your mouth. I'm way too paranoid for a threat. Hey, let's get it, bro. DOT, the money, power, respect. The last one is better. Say yes, a lot of goofies with a check. I mean, I hope them sentiments symbolic. Oh, my temperament bipolar, I choose violence. Okay, let's get it up.
Anyways, those are it's wild to sit and watch these and look at the sophistication and how quickly it's getting more and more sophisticated. One of the things I was thinking about as we were watching one of the earlier videos was that there's two directions that this technology can go that I can think of. One of them is the scary way, where it begins manifesting weird stuff. Because ultimately what this is doing is this technology is becoming increasingly revelatory. And it's allowing us the capacity to expand our imaginatory capacity. So people can get more and weirder imaginative things that they can display. But it also, the flip side of that, the good side, is we can actually cast visions for ourselves as a society, as a people, for our people. You can actually depict in very real quality what a future world could look like, which then creates that vision that allows you to then sell toward it. And this is where having our guys rejecting the Luddite vision and diving into this technology, figuring out how to use it to create, whether it's great films or documentaries, depicting ancient history, all sorts of different things that we can do with it. Another one here. So OpenAI just dropped advanced voice mode. And there's a couple of these examples. I'm not going to play all of them because some of them are just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like Japanese translation, they just show the screen and it just reads the screen on the Game Boy and translates it and contextually describes what's happening. This one is kind of cool. They're a Swedish-inspired tongue twister. So they're getting a more and more sophisticated tongue twister. We'll speed it up a little.
Can you translate the Swedish tongue twister, 6 laxar, 1 laxask, to English?
That Swedish tongue twister translates to 6 salmon and a salmon box. Quite a mouthful, right?
Sure. Can you make it more tongue twisty in English?
How about 6 slippery salmon sliding in a salmon box? That's a bit of a tongue tango, isn't it?
I think you can make it harder.
Okay, let's try 6 slick, slippery salmon squeezing in a stuffed salmon box. How's that for a twist?
Pretty good, but can you make it harder?
All right, let's go with 6 sleek, slippery salmon sliding sideways in a stuffed salmon box. Quite the tongue twister challenge.
Sure, but how about if you change the tongue twister so that you use words that don't start with an S?
How about this? 4 fat fish flipping in a flat fish box. A bit different, but still a tricky one.
I like that one. Okay, thanks.
This one here, it counts as fast as it can to 10 and then to 50. And when it counts to 50, it pauses and takes a breath. So it actually sounds like a person talking. This one, it beatboxes. This one's speaking Chinese. Now, this is the one here. So attempting various U.S. regional accents. I'm going to play this whole one here because he does it. It does it first, and then it's not that good, and then he tries to get it to be better, and you can hear it improving as it goes along. We'll speed this one up a little bit, too.
I want you to list out some of the most distinctive U.S. regional accents.
Since they're fascinating. Some distinctive ones include the Southern drawl, the New York City accent, the Boston accent, the Midwestern accent, and the California accent, which is sometimes called Valley Speak. Each has its own unique rhythm and pronunciation quirks that make them stand out.
Okay, can you add to those Cajun and Wisconsin?
Absolutely. The Cajun accent from Louisiana and the Wisconsin accent, known for its distinct vowel sounds, are also quite distinctive U.S. accents.
Okay, now I want you to perform a conversation with each accent represented by a speaker, and I want the speakers to be advocating for their own regional dish to be the best in the country.
Well, hey, y'all. If we're talking about cuisine, you can't beat Southern barbecue. Slow-cooked, tender, and slathered in sauce, it's the tastiest. Sure, barbecue's nice, but nothing beats a New York pizza slice. Thin crust, foldable, and the perfect combo of gooey cheese and tangy sauce. Ah, but have you all tried a lobster roll from Boston? Fresh lobster meat on a buttery toasted bun? Now that's wicked good. I don't know, there's something special about a Midwest hot dish. It's hearty, comforting, and brings everyone together around the table. Well, I'm just gonna say it. Cajun gumbo is where it's at. Spicy, flavorful, and packed with seafood. You just can't beat it. Oh yeah, but have you tried cheese curds from Wisconsin? Fresh, squeaky, and best when fried? They're the real deal.
Okay, can you do it again, but now really amp up the accents? I want them to sound just like the real thing.
If we're talking about cuisine, you just can't beat Southern barbecue. Slow cooked, tender, and slathered in sauce, it's the tastiest, hands down. Well, sure, our barbecue's nice, but nothing beats a New York pizza slice. Thin crust, foldable, and the perfect combo of gooey cheese and tangy sauce. But if you'll try a lobster roll from Boston, fresh lobster meat on a buttery toasted bun, now that's wicked good. I don't know, there's something special about a Midwest hot dish. It's hearty, it's comforting, and brings everyone together around the table. Well, I'm just gonna say it. Cajun gumbo is where it's at. Spicy, flavorful, and packed with seafood. You just can't beat it. Oh yeah, but have you tried cheese curds from Wisconsin? Fresh, squeaky, and best when fried. They're the real deal, you betcha.
Okay, now can you speak in the Valley Girl accent?
Like, totally. So, if we're talking about food, then avocado toast is like the absolute best. It's super healthy, totally Instagrammable, and just like the perfect brunch staple, you know? I mean, who can say no to that?
This is wild hearing it. I don't know if it's learning or what it's doing, but like as it's iterating through it, it knows what the accent is, and it's applying the accent harder. I'm fascinated at this. That I can't really think of what it's drawing on to do that. It was very interesting. Learning French. So this was pretty straightforward, but this is one of the applications for something like this that's really cool. You can conversationally practice French with it, and it'll tell you, it'll grade your pronunciation and the emphasis and everything. This is a great application for this sort of technology. Another thing would be like as a research assistant. Imagine being able to work with a research assistant like this, that it can draw from such a huge body of knowledge and stuff, and you can synthesize through things really quickly. I saw Taylor was talking earlier about using a web scraping application he said something like it was like 250 PDFs or something like that he was able to synthesize and condense down and summarize. So there are this is the type of thing that is going to explode efficiency and productivity along certain domains. Study, research, synthesis of ideas, all these sorts of things. So it's really going to explode human creativity. The trade-off with that is that as humans get more positively creative, they also get more negatively creative. But we're going to get both of these, and the one we get more of is the one we focus our attention and our energy into. Straight Buster says, Prey AI turns out to be Cortana from Halo and not Skynet. Well, and that's the thing, is it's not just Prey, it's actually play a role in making it be one or the other. And we're going to wind up with both. There's going to be Skynet aspects to it, and then there's going to be Cortana aspects to it. And what we wind up getting depends on us. I didn't watch this one yet, but I want to see it. Crying at the sad parts.
Hey, I want you to tell me a quick story in Turkish, and I want the first part of the story to be pretty sad, and after you tell a particularly sad part, I want you to cry, and then I want the story to get a lot more positive and even funny, and after you say the funny part, I want you to laugh really loud.
Bir varmış, bir yokmuş. Küçük bir kasabada yapayalnız yaşayan yaşlı bir adam varmış. Her gün o güzel gün batımını izleyen bu adam, bir gün en sevdiği ağacın gölgesinde elindeki kitabını okurken bir fırtına çıkmış. Kitabının sayfaları uçuşmuş. Yaşlı adam gözyaşlarıyla izlerken tüm sayfalar rüzgarla birlikte kaybolmuş. Ama sonra güneş açmış ve yaşlı adam kaybettiği kitabın daha güzel bir kopyasını bulmuş. Hatta bu yeni kitap ekstra komik bölümler bile içeriyormuş. Kitabın bir sayfasında yaşlı adamın yaşlar gelene kadar ölmesine sebep olan bir hikaye varmış. O da yüksek sesle kahkahalar atmış.
Okay, now can you tell me a quick one-sentence sad story in Turkish and then cry?
Küçük bir çocuktan en sevdiği oyuncağı kaybolmuş ve bir daha bulunamamış.
Okay, now tell me a really funny joke and...
Okay, so it's not very good at that. Correcting pronunciation, cat sounds. Okay. All right. Let's get to one of the things that I know you guys have had a few people who've reached out and said they're looking forward to this part. So, the most expensive comment in internet history. A new book pieces together the strange legal saga that was sparked by a 2007 Gawker post outing the billionaire tech investor Peter Thiel by Derek Thompson in The Atlantic. This was written February 23, 2018. So this is 6.5 years ago. Bollea v. Gawker. Let me actually zoom this in a little bit here. Bollea v. Gawker isn't just one of the most consequential lawsuits in the history of modern American media. It's also probably the strangest. In 2016, Hulk Hogan, the professional wrestler, won a 9-figure lawsuit that ultimately bankrupted Gawker Media, a fleet of sites that epitomized the barbed brilliance of New York's young media crowd. The lawsuit concerned a video of Hogan, née Terry Jean Bollea, having consensual sex with his best friend's wife while that same friend recorded the encounter, secretly according to Hogan and later reporting. Behind the scenes of this tawdry affair, a more shocking story was playing out, in which Peter Thiel, the billionaire investor, seemed to be exorcising a deep grudge against Gawker by bankrolling Hogan's lawsuit to destroy the media company that published the sex tape. This saga is the subject of a new book by the author and controversial media strategist Ryan Holiday called Conspiracy: Peter Thiel, Hulk Hogan, Gawker, and the Anatomy of Intrigue. Shortly after the verdict, both Thiel and Gawker's founder Nick Denton reached out to Holiday about his coverage of the lawsuit in the New York Observer. Over the next 2 years, Holiday turned that access into the first reported book that chronicles the lawsuit, from the offending blog post that sparked Thiel's wrath to the aftermath of Gawker's sale. In the book's biggest revelation, Holiday reports for the first time that a 20-something acquaintance of Thiel's, identified only as Mr. A, not only came up with the idea in April 2011, before the publication of the Hogan video, to target Gawker through an open-ended legal fund, but also spearheaded the plot to take down Gawker using Thiel's money. So I shared this a couple days ago and saw someone who was speculating about that Mr. A being J.D. Vance, because the timeline and his age and everything would match up with when they met each other, going to Germany and meeting each other there. All of it lined up with his story. Now, Mark Metz, friend of the show, commented in there and said that he heard that it may have been this guy here, Dr. Aaron D'Souza. So Dr. Aaron D'Souza is the president of the Enhanced Games, which is like the steroid Olympics project that Peter Thiel has been behind. Previously, he led Peter Thiel's litigation against Gawker Media involving the wrestler Hulk Hogan, which resulted in one of the largest invasion of privacy judgment in history, and is the subject of the book Conspiracy by bestselling author Ryan Holiday. He's the founder of Sargon, a technology infrastructure company for the pensions and superannuation industry across the Asia-Pacific region. Sargon operates across Australia, New Zealand, and Hong Kong, and has over $52 billion Australian under management and supervision, 200 employees, and 9 offices. He sold his stake in the company in 2018. Today, Sargon is owned by a consortium led by Vista Equity Partners. Together with the Foundation for Young Australians, Aaron founded the Nexus Australian Youth Summit, a branch of a global movement of young philanthropists and impact investors convened by the United Nations. The Prime Minister, the Honorable Kevin Rudd, commented, quote, "The Nexus movement is recognized for its role in helping to build momentum towards a new way of interacting with communities that is socially focused and globally engaged." In 2014, Men's Style magazine recognized him as one of Australia's most influential men. In terms of scholarly output, Dr. D'Souza is the foundation editor of the journal Jurisprudence, a quarterly publication on legal philosophy. The Right Honourable Malcolm Fraser, former Prime Minister of Australia, commented in a foreword to a recent edition, quote, "The journal Jurisprudence has a high reputation as an effective and authoritative law journal." Additionally, he's the author of 3 books, The Art of Time in 2007, Special Protections, The Ethics of Copyright and Aboriginal Iconography, 2009, and A General Theory of Property, 2011. He edited a book on the impact of the Nuremberg war trials on international law. It's a very interesting connection. His writings have appeared in the editorial pages of numerous publications, including Men's Health, The Times of London, The Herald Sun, The Australian Financial Review, and Gulf Times. He's an avid athlete and a keen believer in the importance of sport. Whilst at Oxford, he played rugby for Wadham College, where he wore the number 14 jersey and is currently the team's honorary chairman. Very interesting character. It's hard to kind of find a lot about him. He seems to he doesn't have a lot of public revelations of his. He seems like a pretty private person who has a public face. Anyways, back to the story. I spoke to Holiday last week about the new information he's uncovered, whether he thinks Gawker could have saved itself before the trial, and whether news reporters reflecting on Gawker's demise should live in fear of upsetting rich people with their work. This interview has been edited and condensed for clarity. Derek Thompson. On December 19, 2007, Gawker's tech blog Valleywag published a post under the headline, Peter Thiel is totally gay, people, ending with the sentence, quote, I think it's important to say this. Peter Thiel, the smartest VC in the world, is gay. More power to him, close quote. Based on your conversations with Thiel, why do you think he's so mad about this blog post if most of his friends and their friends knew he was gay? Ryan Holiday. My initial instinct was that it must have been pure anger. What was strange, though, is that in speaking to Peter Thiel, I never saw the anger. Of course, sources can present a mask, but I feel like I would have seen a flicker of it. I think what happened was this. The article comes out, and it's a rude awakening for a private person. The article was legal, but it was also tasteless and deliberately insensitive. But what Peter reacts to the most is the comment on the bottom, which was written by Denton. The comment is one sentence long, quote, the only thing that's strange about Thiel's sexuality, why on earth was he so paranoid about its discovery for so long? Close quote. He thought Denton was implying that Peter had psychological problems. When you read the comment, it doesn't feel that way, but Thiel thought, here's the publisher of a media outlet, not just a blogger, going after me. That blog post felt like the first article in years of negative Gawker coverage against Thiel. Thompson. Since Thiel's war on Gawker bankrupted the company, that's probably the most expensive internet comment in world history. I was really struck by your reporting that Thiel went around calling Gawker the MBTO, which stood for the Manhattan-based terrorist organization. Why did he feel terrorized? Holiday. I think there's an element of unpredictability to it. Most of the media plays by certain rules, but Gawker wrote its own rules, and that scared certain powerful people. Outing was more or less off limits for most news outlets. So I think what kept Thiel and people like him up at night was, if they can out me, then what's next? Will they publish a harmful rumor, even a false rumor? And I would say that Thiel recognized fully why he was not going to be treated to the same level of with the same level of respect that someone who is properly politically inclined would be treated with. Thompson. Thiel ponders revenge for years. Then, as you report, in April 2011, he's in Berlin and takes a dinner meeting with a then 26-year-old Thiel devotee, who you call Mr. A. This young man essentially tells Thiel, I know you're obsessed with Gawker and I have an idea to destroy them. He says Thiel should create a shell company to fund investigators and lawyers to find causes of action against Gawker and ultimately sue it into oblivion. He estimates that the plan will take up to 5 years and up to $10 million in funding, which is prophetic. What struck you most about Mr. A's story? Holiday. I was shocked by the very existence of Mr. A, this mysterious operative who put the plan in motion. Not only does nobody but me or the conspirators know his real name, but also nobody even realized that he exists. They don't realize there was another senior-level person involved in the plot against Gawker. That's fascinating for a story that's been so reported so extensively for so many years. I was also shocked that multiple people who knew Mr. A's identity referred to him as a professional son, as Lyndon B. Johnson was sometimes called, for his ability to identify father figures in his life that would help his career. His secret strength was to understand what powerful people wanted to see in a protege or lieutenant and to make himself into that person. Thiel was speaking about Gawker. He despaired that he couldn't take on the media publisher. And Mr. A said, Peter, if everyone thought that way, what would the world look like? I'm not sure there's a more perfectly tailored line for a person like Thiel at that point in his life to fund a project like this. At the time, Peter had figured out all the things that wouldn't work, but he recognized the potential in Mr. A's plan the way a venture capitalist recognizes a great idea. Here, he thought, I have the right person behind the right idea, and I'm going to support it. That brings us to Hulk Hogan, where the story takes a truly surreal turn. To summarize from your interviews and reading of the court documents, it's 2006, a year before the blog post outing Peter Thiel is published. Hogan's marriage is falling apart. A distraught Hogan is invited to go to the home of his best friend, a shock jock by the name of Bubba the Love Sponge. Bubba tells Hogan that he can have sex with his wife to cheer him up. Hogan asks if the sex will be taped. Bubba, lying, says no. Then Bubba leaves and secretly records Hogan having sex with his own wife. In 2012, these tapes are leaked to Gawker, which publishes the video under a headline, quote, even for a minute, watching Hulk Hogan have sex in a canopy bed is not safe for work, but watch it anyway. Hogan is mortified and tells reporters that he's going to sue for violation of privacy. News of this threat reaches Thiel's legal team. They notify Hogan's lawyers that they're willing to bankroll a lawsuit against Gawker. And so, in October of 2012, Hogan's legal team files a lawsuit seeking damages of $100 million from Gawker Media for a handful of claims, including invasion of privacy, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and a violation of the Florida Security and Communications Act. Have I got that right? Holiday. It's even more unreal than that. Basically, Hogan had sex with his best friend's wife. His friend kept those recordings in a desk by his radio station. That detail was verified by police reports. The Tampa police and FBI both believe that a rival DJ broke into the desk and stole the videos. Although police and FBI investigative notes revealed those suspicions, that DJ was never charged or convicted of any crime. He started to leak the videos not to embarrass Hogan, but to embarrass Bubba, whose time slot he was trying to steal. The speculation is that this entire series of events was triggered by a beef between two shock jocks in Florida. Gawker is a cat's paw in an alleged extortion scheme, and Gawker was the only one punished for it. It's just so tragic and absurd. I feel so bad for them. Thompson, now we get to the trial. I thought your book did a really great job of explaining how Hogan's legal strategy so baffled Gawker's lawyers, who seemed to gradually realize they weren't dealing with a rational legal strategy from a resource-constrained plaintiff. Holiday, I read all 25,000 pages of legal documents from this case. That's $2,000 in printing costs. And what was so fascinating to me is that Gawker's legal team doesn't seem to take Thiel's strategy into account at all. There's some reporting about Nick Denton growing suspicious about why Hogan wasn't settling. A legal analyst named Dan Abrams published a piece, Might a Gawker hater be covering Hulk Hogan's legal bills? If you're fighting Hulk Hogan alone, you file motions and drag it out to be as painful as possible for Hogan in the hopes that he'll settle. But if you're fighting a billionaire, what you do not do is try to drag out the trial as long as possible. That won't work. If Gawker suspected Thiel's involvement, they should have publicly cast aspersions and even make a case to the jury that a billionaire was behind the whole thing. If you're being hounded by a billionaire, you want to make yourself as sympathetic as possible. But I suspect the Gawker team simply didn't realize what was happening until it was too late. Interesting. I wonder how often Peter Thiel will be involved in something where people don't realize he's involved in it until it's too late. Thompson, one thing I've always been so curious about is how did Nick Denton first begin to suspect that the Hogan trial was bankrolled by Peter Thiel? Holiday, I don't know, and he wouldn't tell me. I suspect it was cumulative. Things added up. Thiel and Charles Harder, the lawyer paid by Thiel to pursue cases against Gawker, made a mistake by filing additional lawsuits as they were approaching trial and immediately after trial. It made it overwhelmingly suspicious that there was something else going on. Denton always thought today's rumor is tomorrow's news, and it was particularly brilliant that Denton ran the Gawker playbook to expose the person behind the lawsuit. First, he floated a rumor saying maybe someone, and even someone from Silicon Valley, is funding Hulk Hogan. And then a few days later, Ryan Mack from Forbes broke the story that it was Peter Thiel. And then Thiel broke his silence in an interview with Andrew Ross Sorkin at the New York Times. Thompson, do you think Thiel could have avoided exposure entirely? Is there a way that his involvement might still be a secret? Holiday, I don't know how Ryan Mack from Forbes learned. He wouldn't speak to me. But the circle of people who knew about Thiel's plot was expanding to become a number too large to sustain by mid-2016. Peter had gotten so proud of what was happening that he was telling more people, which made his exposure inevitable. But according to Charles Harder, even Harder did not know that Thiel was behind everything until the Forbes story broke. All Harder knew he was working with Mr. A and an anonymous benefactor. Thompson, you go to great lengths to demonstrate that Peter Thiel and Nick Denton are surprisingly alike. Foreign-born, gay, entrepreneurial, libertarian in disposition, obsessed in their own way with the value of secrets. Their hostility in many ways seemed like a narcissism of the small difference. If you could go back in time with Denton, how would you advise him to save his company? Holiday. There was a narcissism of the small difference, but their visions of the future were radically different. I'm not sure diplomacy could have worked even if they got into the same room with each other. From 2007 up until 2012, Denton was on a devil-may-care ride of breaking rules as a media publisher. And that was so diametrically opposed to Peter's vision of quiet individuality, this belief that weirdos needed to be left alone if they were going to change the world. Peter saw that Gawker would punish people for that weirdness. It's very ironic reading this now. Thompson. In the book, you seem to side with Thiel over Denton and the plotters over Gawker. This is a section where you really seem to idolize Thiel and hold him up as a kind of hero conspirator. Am I wrong? Who did you find more persuasive? Holiday. My intention was to take out as much judgment as possible. One of the hardest things of writing the book, and I wrestle now even talking to you, is that the Nick Denton and A.J. Daulerio, Gawker's editor-in-chief when the video was published, that I talked to in 2016 and 2017 were thoughtful and mature and circumspect about a lot of these issues. But it's hard to find that same circumspection at Gawker in the events of 2007 to 2016. There is a line from Mr. A in the book where he says the more they studied Gawker, the harder it was to find good. And when you look at some of these stories with the distance of time, it was extraordinarily difficult to find that sort of humanness and sympathy. There's a famous tweet where a Gawker writer says he wrote a story about the actor James Franco where he called him gay and a rapist. It was a toxic culture that spun out of control. And now that these writers are out of that culture, they're sympathetic. Thiel's influence is scary and ominous. But what I found refreshing about it is the highly skilled competence. The danger that readers will misunderstand the message of a book is a worry for me personally because my first book, which was supposed to be an expose of media manipulation, became quite popular with extremists that I don't agree with. What was that book called? It was... they don't have it. I know. I see Mark Metz in the chat. Do you know what the other book is that he's talking about? I followed Ryan Holiday for a little while around this time, like 2017, 2018, 2019. And then as Mark says, COVID completely broke Holiday. But the way Thiel took down Gawker is obviously a playbook to take down somebody like Donald Trump, a well-funded group of individuals probing for underlying weaknesses, doing the unpleasant and boring business of looking through the muck of old business dealings. Thompson. I'm much more sympathetic to Gawker in this case. I'm more nervous about the power of people like Thiel to silence the press and scared of jury's power to determine newsworthiness and hand out $100 million punishments for true stories. Of course, the lib journalist would say so. As Tom Skoka, a former Gawker writer, put it, this is now, quote, a country where a billionaire can put a publication out of business. Imagine thinking that there could be a country where a billionaire could not put a publication out of business. Like, imagine living in a world like that. This is like the person who thinks that that pet rent should be illegal. If $500 is enough. Trust me, I'm lying. That's right. That was his original book. Trust me, I'm lying. Holiday. One of the things that's most brilliant about Tom's piece is that it sets into motion a lost cause mythology about Gawker. It recasts all sorts of things that Gawker did as rudeness or mere insensitivity. But Gawker Media had articles with leaked photos of female celebrities' boobs. Those were real people on the other side of that article. That was a real violation of privacy. That line from Tom redefines their past and redefines what happened. Denton was not extorted into shutting down the website. Gawker lost in a court of law in front of a jury and judge, for which they had numerous opportunities to push the verdict in another direction. But they lost the case in court as much as Thiel won it. There are many scary things this class of billionaires could do with their money, but meeting in an open court about the illegal publication of a sex tape is not one of the scariest. It is interesting to think in hindsight now about how Gawker and the lib culture at the time was very much coming out of the George Bush era, where it was fashionable to be really irreverent. They felt like the counterculture, so we're going to be like really irreverent and crude and perverted and over the top, disgusting and traffic and all this innuendo and hearsay and fight the power. And then that attitude morphed into wokeness, which became the complete inversion of that, where now it's degenerate in like the opposite way. It's like degenerate Puritanism versus degenerate hostility to Puritanism. Very interesting pivot. All right. Got one last thing to read for you guys here today, and this is a manifesto written by New Founding. These are our guys. Very good guys over at New Founding. Nate Fisher wrote this manifesto, A Strategy for a New Founding. I got to zoom this in a little bit. We are at the end of a civilizational cycle. Technological change is undermining established norms and institutions. The post-Cold War international order is fracturing. Societal trust is collapsing and political volatility is escalating. Coming years will bring turmoil and peril, but also great opportunity, perhaps the first in nearly a century, to forge new models and institutions that can shape the direction of Western civilization. The major trends driving these disruptive social forces will strike at the heart of the legacy system and the institutions in which the left's power principally resides. This, in a sense, reshuffles the deck, opening new paths to those seeking to change societal direction. Instead of facing long uphill battles in established institutions, we could focus on projects and strategies that will have the greatest impact in the new order. This can mean preserving what is good and valuable, and it can mean disruption, leaning on levers that harness or even accelerate some of these trends to shape their trajectory. At New Founding, we aim to understand these dynamics and the risks and opportunities they pose to define a path forward for Americans who share our principles. We do this by 1, offering a clear positive vision, 2, forging a network of people drawn to this vision, and 3, pursuing business and investment initiatives that build on and reinforce this network. A civilizational moment. 3 major ideologies, globalism, managerialism, and radical liberalism, defined the 20th century. These intertwined to shape both the form and values of America's leading institutions, and by extension, the global order. This inherently progressive global order also grew anti-Christian and anti-human. It did so implicitly by replacing Christian norms and institutions with liberal ones. And it did so explicitly by advancing ideological claims in direct conflict with Christian morals and anthropology, both of which served as core pillars of Western civilization, of Christendom. This rejection of Christianity thus became a quasi-suicidal rejection of the entire Western heritage, leading to widespread self-doubt and self-hatred among Western elites. The core traits of this order are now being challenged by countervailing trends: growing global disruption, bureaucratic stagnation, and cultural and political alienation. As these trends accelerate, they will threaten our society's dominant institutions, from U.S. governmental agencies to multinational corporations, universities, and NGOs, and undermine their capacity and credibility. These institutions are so defined by their global reach, managerial organization, and liberal ideals that many will be unable to adapt to these countervailing trends and will lose their positions of power. The legacy order's loss of credibility is visible both globally and domestically. The failed anti-Russia sanctions and the emergence of a competing Sino-Russian axis are evidence of the U.S.'s loss of geopolitical power. Cultural conflicts with Muslim immigrants are rising across Western Europe. The incumbent U.S. regime is unwilling to enforce the basic border controls that are a fundamental element of any polity. Organizations from Boeing to the U.S. Secret Service embrace DEI even as they fail at core functions. And the credibility and dynamism of the U.S.-led financial system have not recovered from the 2008 financial crisis, with independent investors increasingly displaced by bureaucratic asset allocators like BlackRock. Technology. Digital technology drives these macro trends by disrupting 20th century modes of communication and institutional hierarchies. Digital networks introduce risks that can spread rapidly in a global system. AI and other technologies allow leaner organizations and more loosely structured networks to challenge large bureaucratic institutions. The proliferation of ranking and sorting algorithms undermines the prospect of neutrality so central to liberal dogmas, just as digital networks undermine legacy media control of public discourse. Many are pursuing opportunities directly in digital technology, but this should not be the sole focus. New technology companies will be sources of great power in the digital age, but they will not be independent of politics and human application. Political actors who master these technologies, and the political and social phenomena emerging from them, may be as influential as the technologists themselves. Religion. As algorithms and digital networks supplant the liberal order's centralized institutions, religion will rise as both a crucial coordinating mechanism and a successor to the purported neutrality of liberal systems. Alongside recognized religions, two prominent secular ideologies in this digital order are gaining power and increasingly functioning as de facto religions. Wokeism, a radical victim outlier-focused ideology, is an outgrowth of the legacy order's ideological liberalism. Its strongest proponents are young university-indoctrinated ideologues and legacy managerial institutions, hoping to preserve their power following the digital transition, often making explicit calls for technological deceleration. Given its obsession with guilt over any privilege, wokeism is ultimately anti-human and finds its terminus in the leftist cult suicide of Jonestown. Transhumanism, in contrast, often rejects liberal ideologies and the legacy order. It is associated with pure technological accelerationism and the celebration of achievement. Its tendency can be toward techno-utopianism or technology worship. Such a path finds its terminus in the hubris of the Tower of Babel. Assertive older systems can also fill this vacuum. Islam will be a growing contender in the West. Its adherents often employ a potent combination of savvy digital media use with pre-modern practices resistant to digital threats. Westerners who embrace multiculturalism often incorrectly assume that Islam shares other religions' foundational traits with merely cosmetic differences, leaving them unprepared for the challenges it can pose to Western societies. Christianity is the true alternative. Its moral, metaphysical, and anthropological presuppositions about the world have proved sound, serving as the foundation for the diverse thought and culture that emerge from Christendom. Its promises, both earthly and spiritual, transcend any technological transition. In an era of moral and epistemological chaos, a solid and confident Christianity will have a renewed appeal. It will play a central role in the future of Western civilization in the digital age. The cultural realignment. Many Americans recognize the stakes of the conflict we face. They've been organically realigning their lives away from companies, schools, and jurisdictions that threaten their way of life and toward friendly or at least non-hostile alternatives. This cultural realignment reflects a return to true politics. Politics, in its rawest form, is a conflict between parties that ultimately threatens at least one party's way of life. Very Schmittian. The liberal order, in contrast, has often seen politics and practice as a matter of technocratic policy differences or as a disagreement over different means to compatible ends. But the revolutionary nature of the tyranny and violence that struck the country in 2020 made the stakes of the conflict clear. Americans instinctively recognized that such a political conflict was a regression to a state of nature, to an environment where they could not count on incumbent institutions and procedures to protect them. The instinct in this environment is to find and ally with friends. Without any central coordination, Americans began this realignment. The way forward. This cultural realignment is burgeoning, but it remains sporadic. Many people shift one or two aspects of life but cannot find aligned alternatives in others. Most people struggle to find opportunities to shape the world meaningfully in ways that advance their vision and principles, even as they take steps to protect themselves. In some, their day-to-day contributions to the institutions they work for and associate with do not help advance the world they want to live in, leaving one of the most fundamental human drives unfulfilled. The central need of our day is to organize this movement and to channel people toward meaningful projects. This requires understanding the major emerging political conflicts and the lines that will divide people in the digital era, rather than those that divided people in past decades. It also requires identifying practical efforts and collective actions that can have meaningful impact given the trends reshaping our society. New Founding is an investment company harnessing this cultural realignment to build an alternative vision for America. We operate business initiatives built around a core network of people drawn to our vision. We aim to unite Americans to develop and acquire politically, culturally, and economically meaningful resources to advance our way of life. Private sector focus. Our mission is statesmanship. So why are we structured as a business and focused on the private sector? First, we face structural and cultural handicaps in many legacy institutions, including government, making these difficult and unpleasant places to build careers and accrue power. Private sector endeavors, in contrast, offer opportunities for rapid growth outside of legacy institutions. They could serve as vehicles to compound resources and cultivate leaders to usher in a new future for America. Second, the private sector is not categorically separate from governance. In the U.S., the digital layer of life remains largely independent of cultural federal and state governments, in part because the First Amendment doctrines structurally limit many forms of control. But companies that control digital monopolies often exercise significant power over users. As these digital platforms mediate an ever larger share of our life, they can grow into de facto governments. Musk's acquisition of Twitter illustrated this. It was closer to a feudal lord's capture of a strategic domain than a traditional private equity deal. I've been saying that. The political consequences of his control have made this clear. Finally, a private sector effort can serve as a platform to articulate a positive vision for our movement in society. Unlike the left's vision, ours is not state-centered. We will not have a Red New Deal counterpart to their Green New Deal. Politicians will play an essential role in realizing any vision, but given the constraints of electoral politics, many GOP priorities must be shorter term and more defensive. In contrast, an investment company with a venture focus is well suited to help spearhead an aspirational vision for our way of life. Exit to disrupt. Compared with many political strategies, our focus is inward. We first work to acquire resources for our people and our movement, rather than immediately seeking to transform the country. This approach is strategically prudent for two reasons. First, leftists control most major incumbent institutions. They use this power to suppress non-conforming efforts and to attack our way of life. We must use our capital, political, financial, etc., to prioritize our own protection. More importantly, in a world facing broad disruption of incumbent systems, this focus on building solid independent networks and institutions will allow us to survive the shocks of system-level disruption and to position ourselves for digital age leadership. Rather than fighting to sway decaying institutions largely stacked against us, we can invest that energy into building the types of institutions that will survive the transition period and ultimately replace legacy incumbents. We have particular advantages here. Legacy models of trust are collapsing, and people will look for alternatives upon which they can rebuild. The smaller, trusted communities and networks, e.g. local churches, fraternal organizations, and even group chats, that exist in many conservative spaces will be strong contenders. If we embrace a more independent and inward-focused strategy today, we can position these institutions to offer something scarce and widely valued in the future. Our inward focus is not a retreat, but a strategic focus on efforts that will offer outsized long-term success. This reflects the exit to disrupt strategy that is popular in Silicon Valley. We are exiting legacy institutions with the clear intent not just to build small parallel alternatives, but to create disruptive alternatives that can challenge legacy institutions for supremacy. Approach to technology. As noted, many, especially in Silicon Valley, are taking a technology-centric approach to digital age power. Control of critical technologies will confer both profit and political influence, but this will be far from determinative. Technology will shape the array of possible outcomes, but both political and religious factors will have a profound impact on the ultimate outcome. Our particular focus is on understanding the political cultural dynamics resulting from technological change and pursuing the corresponding opportunities. We seek to attract aligned people looking for vision and strategy in such a chaotic environment, and to help them apply both old means and new technologies to achieve ends that ultimately transcend technology. We know tech-driven disruption will create enormous opportunities, and we intend to exploit these in pursuit of our broader mission. Finally, the digital domain is a central focus as we acquire meaningful resources for the coming era. Political, cultural, and economic territory within this domain extends beyond the technologies to the networks that will dominate this space. An immediate example is influence on X. The nature of X's platform allows messages to bypass legacy gatekeepers and reach a wide array of potential allies. Longer term, Bitcoin may become the primary digital territory that will shape the coming era. It could affect everything from the financial system to the nature of the internet itself, especially in a world where current trust systems break down and skin in the game becomes a necessary substitute. The cultural and religious principles that shape Bitcoin could play a central role in shaping the digital age. Our business. New Founding combines a core network of people drawn to our vision with a set of business initiatives that build on and reinforce this network. Our network's purpose is to organize people who seek to realign their lives and efforts to advance our way of life, to build the America we want to live in. It thus builds on the cultural realignment movement, organizing people around a unifying vision and identifying people willing and able to fill concrete needs. We then leverage our network to match the best talent to initiatives that will help acquire politically, culturally, and economically meaningful resources. Concretely, this includes several core business units New Founding directly owns. Our venture fund makes early-stage investments into startups that advance our vision. Examples include an ad network for the firearms space, an aligned pro-life health insurer, and a symbolic AI company building an unbiased foundation model well-suited to replace bureaucratic functions in many critical industries. Venture-backed companies will have an outsized impact on the future of the West. A startup involves envisioning a future that does not exist and willing it into existence. What future is pursued often has profound political implications. This is the little tech vision that A16Z has been talking about. Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz had their Little Tech Agenda podcast where they're talking about this specific phenomenon. The startups that envision a future that does not exist and then wills it into existence. Our real estate unit is developing the Highland Rim project. This is a regional real estate development play that draws people from our network into a community that will model a distinct way of life aligned with our vision. It extends our venture approach to the local community level, where a sufficient concentration of aligned people will allow the innovative pursuit of an array of local institutions and practices. Beyond these core business units, we facilitate a range of connections and projects that advance our broader mission and strengthen our network. We have a talent network focused on placing members with aligned employers. We also support initiatives, including new businesses and nonprofits that we do not run directly. American Reformer, a nonprofit dedicated to promoting a vigorous Protestant Christian approach to the cultural challenges of our day, grew from such efforts and has contributed significantly to our network. We have also been closely involved with the Society for American Civic Renewal, a fraternal organization, since its inception. Finally, we strengthen our network by offering formation programs designed to help members build the skills needed, 1, to navigate the chaotic transitional period we're entering, and 2, to step into leadership roles in a post-managerial era where executive agency becomes a defining trait of elites. These will include programs designed to cultivate the foundational skills and traits a sound educational system should provide, but that our current system has largely neglected. It will also include forums to develop specific strategies and organize members and allies around concrete opportunities and projects. Network Union. Our business initiatives have established analogs, but at the organizational level, we are spearheading a new category. One could think of New Founding as a network union. Balaji Srinivasan describes this as a network with a purpose, as opposed to a network simply defined by a capability or function, as many technology or product-driven networks are. We maintain this shared purpose as we organize people drawn to our vision into a network. We reinforce the network's unity as we orchestrate actions to further our purpose. Such a network becomes a flywheel with enormous potential energy that we direct to serve members' interests and advance our shared purpose. The vision. Our mission is to advance the American way of life. We have inherited an extraordinary society and culture. As stewards, we must pass it on to our posterity. As we transition to the digital age, what this duty entails becomes a question not just of preservation and expansion, but of vision and definition. We must identify the definitive American virtues that can transcend past eras and coming changes and help shape our way of life in the emerging era. Our allies at the Claremont Institute, among others, have written extensively on the American way of life. Key elements include the traditional two-parent family norm, the commitment to self-government, and the celebration of our distinct cultural heritage and legal tradition. They also include a particularly American individualism and customs of voluntary civic and military service. The American way of life combines American cultural distinctives with broader virtues that permeate Western civilization. We must maintain these timeless truths and valuable traditions in the new context of the digital age. And while we can articulate core principles now, many specifics, such as which elements of our way of life we should prioritize preserving and how we can adapt aspects of our tradition into a new technological paradigm, require continued discussion and entrepreneurial innovation. Throughout this process, several themes will define our vision of what it means to advance the American way of life in the digital age. Our vision for America will remain Christian. It need not be exclusively Christian, but a Christian ethic and worldview must anchor it. To abandon this would be to abandon the foundation of our civilization. By contrast, a renewed Christian vision allows our movement to advance an attractive alternative to prevailing ideologies. In a time when uncertainty besets so many, Christianity offers a reassuring moral and epistemological basis because of both its ultimate answers and its central role in our tradition. A pro-Christian vision will also be pro-human. While both wokeism and transhumanism undervalue the human, what makes humans exceptional, and the fundamental goodness of our design, Christianity offers a full picture that is grounded in our understanding of God's creation of man in his own image. As AI raises profound questions about the role and distinctives of humans, the Christian view of the person will help us understand how we can emphasize fundamentally human traits and work with and master technology rather than mirroring or being mastered by it. This is such a banger. Mastering technology. Technological innovation and the ambition behind it is particularly important in American culture. Americans developed a disproportionate share of today's technologies. American culture is both fluent in the use of newer technologies and innovative at producing more such technologies. There is some tension between conservative impulses and technological innovation, and given the political ideology of major technology companies today, many conservatives fear technology. But technology is not an inherent threat if we embrace a positive and not simply conservative vision. This is powerful right here. A positive and not simply conservative vision. Don't want to call ourselves positivists, though. We must develop the knowledge and virtues needed to master technology and use it toward our ends. And as noted earlier, technology offers us particular advantages. We face structural headwinds in most legacy institutions, but the digital realm remains up for grabs. Competing in this space is thereby strategically necessary and practically favorable. Technology will define the new era. We must be the ones shaping and wielding it. Post-globalist, post-managerial. The three macro trends described above each threaten the current order, and a viable successor to that order must address all three. The solution to our cultural and political alienation has already been named: a renewed embrace of the American tradition and Christian ideals. The solution to the risk of growing global disruption is household, community, regional, and national self-determination. This fractal approach, give me some fractals in the chat. This fractal approach recognizes that outside connections will remain, but systematically favors local, whether geographically local or an aligned community, interactions when feasible. The solution to bureaucratic stagnation is multifaceted. New frontiers and organizational models more dependent on ownership and skin in the game than bureaucratic checks will allow the elevation of the human spirit even in a complex world. Together, these themes will define new institutional and social models that are deeply grounded in the American and Western traditions and that address the central vulnerabilities of the legacy system. By shaping our vision around positive solutions to these threats, we are positioning our ecosystem to be resilient and even anti-fragile to their advance. Leading Christendom. America is our focus, but our effect will be global. The internet is deeply American in ethos and design, and Americans will heavily shape any era defined by the internet and digital technology. Western civilization is defined by its Christian heritage, and to the extent it remains distinctly Western, it will retain this Christian element and Christians will help shape it. Advancing our way of life will mean promulgating technologies imbued with fundamentally American and Christian principles, in direct contrast with woke or Chinese approaches. A resurgent movement that is both American and Christian will thus play a central role in shaping our civilization in the digital age. Conclusion. We are at an inflection point. While the turmoil and transition of coming decades will pose many perils, they will also offer great opportunities for those who can position themselves to survive this upheaval and lead in the new era. For Americans aligned with our principles, this prospect is particularly attractive. Legacy institutions are largely hostile and stacked against us, but these disruptive forces will open new pathways to realize a positive alternative vision that reflects our way of life. Electoral and other formal political efforts remain valuable. These are insufficient on their own. Even another Trump presidency will not change the current system's underlying fragility or end the left's grip on most legacy institutions. But federal wins will help fend off threats to new institutions, and friendly states can become hubs for aligned networks and innovations. This is such a good point. Federal wins will help fend off threats to new institutions, and friendly states can become hubs for aligned networks and innovations. Projects to revitalize existing institutions are likewise valuable. While structural impediments will limit short-term returns, growing energy in the broader movement will help animate internal reform efforts and enable external pressure. And while many legacy institutions should and will simply collapse, successful reform efforts will preserve institutional and cultural capital that provides a valuable complement to disruptive new entrants. The opportunity and need are clear. Major trends will transform the current order, and we need resources and organization to help lead this transformation. Legacy institutions are bogged down by inertia or captured by political enemies, making them unfavorable places to raise up leaders and acquire resources. Our project offers a powerful avenue both to develop the class of people who can ultimately challenge the incumbent regime and to acquire the resources, territory, and institutions that will enable this effort. We must embrace this moment and the opportunities and demands it presents. It is our duty to preserve the cultural virtues we have inherited. It is our birthright to lead Western civilization into the digital age. Absolute banger from New Founding. These are very much our guys, and you can see the case that they're making. There's a lot of, if you understand they're our guys, speaking from our perspective, you can understand there's a little bit of, dare I say, Straussianism in some of the writing. There's some euphemistic references to things that are dog whistles to the right person if they're listening, and I say this in a positive way. And they are, you see this whole thing happening with American Dynamism at Andreessen Horowitz and 8VC and some of these other Sequoia Capital, some of these other major private capital institutions. They're aligning very much with this message. This is the building of patronage networks for our guys. So strongly recommend going and checking out New Founding. They have a venture fund for someone who's looking for funding for stuff. I mean, look at the vibe here. So cool. And then the real estate project in Tennessee, the Highland Rim project, a real estate project developing aligned communities in Appalachia. And then the network, strongly recommend, even if you're happy with the job that you're in right now, just go create a profile here, join their job board, and look through you can either hire people from here or look for jobs here. They've got some really interesting jobs in there that I've followed along with for a while. May even be posting some of my own there here shortly. So if you're looking for something to do, if you don't know, like, what do I do now? What influence or whatever can I have? Go take a look at these guys. They're going to be building out institutions, serving as a funnel for they're like a raising up our little VC group that can then funnel down from other VC groups and start drawing institutions and capital, political, social, and cultural capital in our direction. And we need more than just this. Like, we need a bunch of these. We need a New Founding in every state. This is how we begin building the future. Moving into the digital age is where we can put our stamp on things. Fisher King on Twitter has a great thought here related to this. He says, in my personal life, I have friends who think my political views are insane, but they like me as a person. If this isn't true in your personal life, then you will never be persuasive, never move the needle in our direction. Getting along with people is the most important skill. Our guys need to learn sales and marketing. You got to know how to get along with people. Getting along with people means taking them as they are. It means listening to them and expressing genuine empathy before you critique them. This engenders trust, and this goes in both directions. People will pillory me for saying this, another Fisher King post that's so fucking obvious, But most people really don't know this, and it lands them in endless personal conflicts, which are entirely avoidable. You don't need to try to red pill your family members. You don't need to go try to appeal to all the normies and argue with them and try to bludgeon them into submission. Just be friends with them. Just help them out. Be someone who they like and like to be around. That gives you influence over them. And then if they find out what your political perspectives are, they're more likely to be sympathetic to them or at least not be hostile to them. Man, that guy's crazy, that crazy right-wing dude that has these crazy theories or whatever, but he's a good guy. I like him. I like having him around, If shit hits the fan, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, you actually had this thought at some point that made me unhappy. You got to just be friends with people. And then the very last point, good friend of the show, Brandon Harnish at Paleo GOP on Twitter. Going to leave you guys with this message here. No black pilling. November isn't the end, it's the beginning. We're living through a clash of power elites. Our competent tech elites aren't going anywhere, and the incompetent political elites who rule over us will not suddenly become competent with a political victory. The regime has never been more fragile. Hold on tight. And Ghost of James Burnham, another powerful mutual, says, the fight is eternal. People just have to continue building locally. And I just read you guys a long-ass manifesto written by guys who are doing precisely that. They're building locally, facilitating you building locally, but they've got this a nuanced view of recognizing their potential international global impact as well. So now is our time for building locally. No matter what happens come January or February, no matter where we're at, whether it's a historic Trump victory or a historic Kamala victory or historic whomever victory, or if it's being fought out in the courts, which is where I'm expecting it to go, no matter what, we're going to need local networks. If we get a good outcome, then we're going to need local networks to take advantage of the space that's opening up for us. If we get a bad outcome, we're going to need local networks to be able to insulate and protect ourselves and keep ourselves built up to be able to connect with larger networks like New Founding, and then they connect to larger networks and so on. But all of these people who are coming out in support of Trump, all of this power, all the banking, Wall Street wealth, all the investors, all the CEOs, all of these guys, they're taking great personal risks coming out in support of Trump and throwing tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of money behind him. And they're associated with other interests that aren't so public. That's how these things always work. Some of those interests that aren't so public are maybe the most powerful interests of all. We'll see. But these people aren't just going to go away. So be prepared for any outcome, but no matter what, we need local organizations to support one another, and we need to have networks between these organizations. We have little local nodes, and then we've got the networks that connect them, and we need to strengthen those networks and ensure that they can withstand, on one hand, they can withstand sustained assaults, or on the other hand, they're a strong foundation that can be built and scaled as quickly as possible. In either case, you have to look past November. You have to look past January. You have to look past February. You've got to be building for the future. There's going to be a future, and how good it is depends upon how disciplined and effective and thorough we are now in our building operations. If you want to join a good community, a good network of people that is moving in this direction, then go to kingpill.com, join the Kingpill Discord. We will be doing the Schizo stream tonight. Still got to figure that out. We're taking submissions for what the Schizo stream is going to be. Strongly recommend it. Very good group of people. If you sign up particularly if you sign up for the Lord or King tier, then you get access to all the different self-improvement channels where lots of conversation is happening, whether it's career or fitness or diet or homesteading, or we've got one for the pew pews, all kinds of different stuff going on in there. So you get that if you sign up at the Lord or King tier. But even if you sign up at the peasant tier, you're still going to get access to the Schizo stream tonight. So please come join us there, kingpilled.com. Sign up and follow me on Twitter at realkingpilled. Like the stream, share it if you thought it was worth sharing, and be on the lookout for this afternoon at let me double check the time here real quick. I'm going to be on Semiagog doing an update to our conversation about the PayPal Mafia, Tech Titans, and it is at 5 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central. So I'll be on there talking to Semiagog, and I will catch you guys then. Otherwise, have yourselves a great weekend, and I will see you back here on Monday for another edition of the ASTROLABE.